When this boy wakes up, he immediately realizes he has regressed back in time. Ryun knows he can't waste any time because his family's downfall begins soon, and he's weak as hell. Even though his maid, Colin, and his sword teacher, Alejandro, tell him to rest because of his weak, cursed body, he straight up asks them to prepare a monster for him. Colin is shocked, and Alejandro notices that the boy has suddenly changed completely. Once they're on the training grounds, Ryun prepares to fight a goblin with a wooden sword. His servants are sure he won't be able to land even a single hit because of his fear, and they'd be right about the old Ryun. But this time he overcomes his fear, lands a clean hit on the goblin, and even breaks the wooden sword. Everyone is shocked, but this is only the beginning. Next, Ryun asks them to bring him a real sword, and when the stunned swordmaster finally hands him one, he kills the poor goblin on the spot. With that, he removes the first stage of the curse and no longer feels any fear in front of monsters. But that's only the first step. Next, he's going to unlock his mana, train with the sword relentlessly, and even learn necromancy. He's going to do whatever it takes to get revenge on those who destroyed his family and made him suffer in his past life. But before that, there's the damn curse that's locking away his true potential. You see, unlike everyone else in his family, who are considered the strongest on the continent and possess the blood of dragons, with the potential to become 7th rank archmages at the age of 10 and swordmasters by just 15, Ryun was cursed by the demon lord Arkan and can't use either a sword or mana. That's why, in his past life, when his father and older brothers disappeared during the war against the monsters, he couldn't protect his family. Instead, he became the reason for its downfall when the evil Lord Sanspartan captured him and locked him away in his dungeon. He tortured our boy every day, hoping to uncover the secrets of his family's power. And in that dark dungeon, Ryun died. But that wasn't the end. After that, he woke up in the world of infinite battles, where he fought for over 100 years and even challenged the Golden Lord of Aedeon to a duel. He lost that fight, but the local god enjoyed it so much that he granted our boy one last wish, and with it Ryun was able to regress. Now back to the present, when Ryun just finished the goblin. Alejandro tells Colin to watch closely because they are witnessing the rise of the next head of House Sermon. Ryun heads out after the fight and splashes cold water on his face to steady himself. He stares at his reflection and feels relief that the status and the system helped him break a piece of the curse. However, his mood then sours as he is not satisfied with the experience points he got. If things remain as they are, he would need to unalive millions of goblins to level up properly. He tells himself he needs to get stronger fast before that dreaded day crashes down on House Sermon. At the very least, he confirms that the curse is not absolute and can be broken. Staring at the system, he tells himself he cannot waste this chance, no matter what. Diving into lore mode, the current state of House Sermon is a mess because his father and siblings have been missing for more than 2 years. Even when he is weakened, he still holds an important position in the house, so the enemies have not made a move yet. Out of nowhere, he throws his fist into the air in excitement that he has finally found a way to raise his level. He decides it is now time to check out the second method. The scene shifts to a beautiful lady in red wearing a mask as she steps through the doors of the house. They sit together for tea and start talking. She says she heard about the monster hunt and smiles at him before asking if he called her for magic training. The lady is Sena, the leader of the magic section of House Sermon. Like the Knight Commander, she is a 7th rank mage with terrifying skills. No one knows much about her abilities or her life except for the head of the family himself. She puts her cup down and gets serious, warning him not to let the goblin hunt inflate his ego because magic is a completely different world. She explains that she never trained him before because she judged that he had no magical talent at all. Ryun smirks because he already knew that truth. The curse never even allowed him to sense mana, let alone wield it. However, everything changed yesterday, and he then fires back a reply with confidence that he can feel mana now, and the revelation leaves her visibly surprised. Putting the tea aside, Sena creates the image of a cool fire dragon. She then gives him permission to slowly open his eyes. To check if he can truly see mana, she says he should be able to recognize the shape she just drew in the air with her magic. She goes completely speechless when he instantly gives the correct answer without a moment of hesitation. It makes absolutely no sense to her how he suddenly awakened the ability to sense magic in just one night. The fact that he can see her drawings means his knowledge of mana is somehow equal to, or even higher than her own. She starts pacing around in worry, wondering how the little boy managed to progress so far so unbelievably fast. Then, Ryun reveals to her that his ability to see magic is practically useless. He can see mana clearly, but he cannot use the Sermon family's magic development techniques. So he wants her to help him overcome that wall. She is surprised he wants her help when he cannot even store magic inside his body. For that to work, Sena will have to directly force her own magic power into him. She warns him that she could kill him anytime she wants during the process. But our prince tells her that he is already so weak she can one-shot him anyway, so it is not a big deal. The real reason, though, is that she is the only person he trusts with his entire life. In the previous timeline, Sena stayed beside him until the very end, and even protected him with her body, long after her magic was exhausted. He requests her help once again, saying there is truly no one other than her he would ever entrust his life to. Later, Sena begins with the Blue Earth magic, the secret technique that has been passed down through the Sermon family for generations. She thinks it is still too early for him, but our boy has plenty of experience using it in Adeon. Once she is ready, she tells him to focus as hard as he can, because he is about to enter a world of pain. She warns him there is no point in screaming or crying once it starts. The only way to end the technique is to think stop with every fiber of his being. Hearing her talk about intense pain, he gets sudden flashbacks of all the mad things Sans did to him before. After that, nothing on earth can scare him anymore. So he calmly reminds Sena that he trusts her with everything he has, and she should stop holding back already. Hearing that, she finally pours her magic power straight into him, and Arkan's curse activates instantly. Mana flows out of his body just as fast as it goes in. Still, he handles it like a pro, controlling every bit of energy during the short window it stays inside him. The curse forces the magic to explode out, but he concentrates that exploding power in one place as a loophole around the curse. Sena cannot believe her eyes because none of the energy she pours in is leaking out. Ryun keeps pushing forward even though every vessel in his body feels like it is about to burst open. But he does not hesitate, considering all the near-death fights he survived back in Adeon. In that hellish dimension, he became the strongest human magician alive. Even after the timeline shift, every last technique he mastered there is still perfectly etched into his memory. Suddenly, he absorbs all of the concentrated energy into his body, and Sena immediately stops flooding him with mana. Ryun collapses to the floor and curls up from the overwhelming pain. But this pain is nothing compared to what he endured before. All the torture and experiments Sans doctors performed on him for research were way worse. During one of those nights, he saw a black-robed figure break into the basement and slice down the doctors. The masked man dragged him out of the basement, even though he was badly wounded himself. When Ryun woke up later, he learned it was actually Alejandro who rescued him. The commander apologized for not saving him sooner, before the monsters in white coats did all that damage. Even then, Ryun was grateful just to see him again after being separated for 3 long years. Unfortunately, their reunion was cut short when the Parton family's guards appeared and rained arrows into the intruder's back. Reliving that tragic nightmare, Ryun snaps awake in the present with tears in his eyes. While he is relieved his magic experiment worked, he is also irritated that the nightmare ruined the moment. He steels himself and decides he will use this newly gained power to make sure that kind of ending never repeats again. Even though he is much stronger now, he knows he must keep his growth hidden, so the Parton family does not catch on too soon. To make sure they cannot interfere, he quietly makes a new plan. And the first step of that plan is to break the Sermon family's enemies ahead of schedule, long before the Partons get the chance to destroy it. Sometime later, Ryun scratches his head and announces that he failed the magic cultivation procedure. Both Sena and Alejandro freeze because they have no idea what he is talking about. After a short stretch of silence, he decides that he cannot tell them the whole truth, even after everything they have done for him. He normally never hides anything from them, but he figures that explaining his situation would only make things worse. Flexing his hands, he tells them that he tried his best, yet cannot feel even a shred of mana right now. He tells Sena she can check as many times as she wants. She accepts the offer and steps forward without hesitation. The mage activates her magic detection spell and grabs his hand as mana flows from hers. She states in shock that such a result is impossible while he puts on a calm smile. Pulling her hands away, she confirms that there is no trace of mana left anywhere in his body. Her voice shakes as she says she was certain she felt mana flowing through him the day before. Depressed and frustrated, Sena wipes her eyes and takes her leave while Ryun calls out to her. As the door closes, Alejandro turns to him and reminds him that he still has night training to focus on. Our hero gives a nervous smile and claims he cannot do that either. He gives a half-baked excuse that he barely ate properly after the last training session, which Colin can also confirm. That single statement drains the color from the Knight Commander's face, and he falls into a quiet depression of his own. Around 2 months later, Colin barges into Ryun's room and says with tears that he did not come out today either. With his father and brothers gone, the lady of the house carries all the duties and keeps things running. However, even she is slowly reaching her limit now. Colin heads back to the kitchen, and the other servants ask if the prince refused to come out again. The butler sighs and says it has been 3 months since the young master last slayed that goblin. Now he does not even answer Alejandro. Another maid then mutters that people often lose themselves when they try to change too quickly, and that hoping for him is useless now. Colin snaps at her and tries to defend the young master, saying that he tried his best that day. Her fire dies down the moment they casually call him by his old nickname, the bad luck of the Sermon family. Out in the city, people took it even further and started calling him the useless rubbish of the Sermon family. Hearing that, his loyal maid jumps and reminds the yapping man that he is only 12. But the butler tells her that expectations are everything when it comes to a noble. The other maid reveals that almost everyone is quitting one by one. The butler admits that he plans to stop working himself soon. He then asks Colin what choice she will make, but she stays silent. The scene then shifts to Ryun, who is calmly enjoying a medium-rare steak. He notices that the quality of the meals is dropping, which tells him that everything is about to hit the fan. Instead of panicking, he smiles like a devil while thinking that things are moving exactly the way he wants. He figures that the past version of him would have desperately tried to fix everything and eventually withered away. The new him is built different. He plans to lie low and make every enemy believe he is weak and defenseless. Then once an opening appears, he will strike without mercy and destroy them all. He recalls that the downfall of the Sermon family began the moment the head of the house went missing and the search party never returned. His older brothers vanished under similar circumstances, and their funding slowly dried up. The training ground that once overflowed with activity now has only a handful of weak knights left. The strong families who once hoped to form ties with them quietly abandoned them too. However, Ryun isn't bothered that much by the situation, because the peace and silence let him live his secret life comfortably. Even so, he is still dissatisfied with how slowly the family is declining and wants to push things along. Just then, Colin bursts into the room and shouts that it is time for training, and the knight commander is waiting. His mood instantly crashes, and he tells her that he wants to skip today as well. Colin refuses to accept that and yanks the covers off him. She slowly approaches him with unshakable resolve before lifting him up bridal style. With a serious look, she carries him out of the room and declares that she will never abandon this family. Meanwhile, our hero simply enjoys the free ride. Later at the training grounds, Alejandro scolds him for swinging the sword so poorly. He chews his ears off that swinging swords is a simple task. Ryun just sighs while thinking that the old man still has not given up on him. He wants to repay that loyalty one day, but he cannot let anyone discover that he has been training in secret. He even uses a body change skill to hide his real physique, although the skill is still weak. Right then, the system informs him that his stamina has increased and his eyes go wide. He immediately makes a bathroom excuse and runs off, leaving a confused knight commander behind. Staring at his reflection, he confirms that the skill breaks the moment he moves too quickly. Ryun opens his status window and smiles when he sees that his hidden training is finally paying off. He figures that he will reach level 20 soon, and plans to use the stats to unlock the ghost class just like he did in the Gulag, while also building up his other classes. Just then, he notices Alejandro speaking to someone and wonders if a surprise visitor has arrived. He recognizes the man as Truno, the general manager of the Sermon family, who apologizes for disturbing him. Truno hands him a scroll, which makes Ryun suspect that the situation is a little different this time. However, the events have not changed. Alejandro already guesses what is going on while our hero reads through the letter. It states that the second prince of Darren Kingdom, Kyle, has invited him to the prince's birthday celebration. The young master smirks, pleased that the final piece of his plan has fallen into place. Soon, our prince is on his way to the Darren family's birthday party while still half asleep. Last night, Colin had too much fun playing dress-up with him so he could look as dapper as possible. She desperately tried to come along too, but she and his other retainers cannot accompany him. Unfortunately, the knight commander was sent out to control the sudden attack at the border. The monster assault was completely unexpected. Meanwhile, Sena had to leave urgently because her mother ordered her to return home right away. In the end, that leaves a 12-year-old family head with crippled social skills going alone to represent the entire Sermon family. Truno assures him that he should not worry too much because the Darren family is not foolish enough to pull anything. But Ryun believes that kind of safety only applies to the former Sermon family. Usually the family would simply send a retainer to attend these frivolous events. Now in its current state, our young master has no choice but to show up at a birthday party as the official house head. He does not mind it though, since he still feels responsible for the fast collapse. A few hours later, his carriage stops outside the Darren household. There, he finds Kyle Darren himself and an entire troop of maids waiting to receive him. Truno shows gratitude for the grand welcome in Ryun's place. However, our boy clearly senses the countless eyes aimed directly at him. As he walks through the reception, he hears all kinds of strange rumors and theories about the Sermon family's downfall and failures. Our prince simply smirks at them, because he already planned for all of this to happen from the start. He digs himself deeper when he opens with a weak hello to the nobles with no class or respect. That bold power move makes everyone in a 1-mile radius collectively facepalm in disappointment. Later in the dining room, one of his escorts is surprised that the young prince has not left his room in 5 whole days. The point of coming 1 week before the actual party is to build relations. But the escort team captain tells him to keep his hopes low. He points out the fantastic disaster Ryun displayed during the reception. He cannot believe the boy is shut in his room, because the rich people's food out there will be to die for. There is everything a man could ever want, including hot noble ladies. Just then, a man enters and informs the captain to gather his men, because the young master will attend the banquet after all. The two celebrate together, relieved that they will not miss out on the good stuff. The man also tells them to keep a proper report ready, while making sure they hide any mistakes the prince made. As for Ryun, he has been quietly training in his room till now, patiently waiting for the perfect time. While he did use the banquet to bribe his escorts into changing his report, his real plan lies somewhere else entirely. After all, the day of the banquet is the exact day when the bane of his existence arrives at the Darren household. All of the ladies chatting aloud go silent the moment Lord Sands steps into the place. Literally everyone around him tries to avoid an eye contact with him. Truno also tries to avoid his gaze, but Sands walks directly toward him without hesitation. Truno is left with no choice, so he starts flattering the guy about the great honor of meeting him in person. But Sands doesn't waste words. He openly says he heard the mighty Ryun Sermon also arrived at the party, and he would like to meet him. Truno pretends he has no idea what he is talking about, so Sands has no problem spelling it out for him, that he is talking about the Sermon family's biggest mistake who will bring them to ruin. Truno is shaken to the core. He knows that Sands is under a lot of pressure as the most talented mage in his family, but he never expected the guy to actually talk trash about the Sermon head in the Darren family's domain, which is directly under their authority. However, Sands quickly does an Uno reverse by saying the rumor must be fake. In fact, he claims he came to debunk the foolish rumor tarnishing the great Sermon name, but Truno does not buy any of it, since it is coming from the biggest dirtbag on the entire continent. It is said Sands started drinking at the prime age of 7, and even murdered one of his own subjects. At that moment, our boy makes a grand entrance with his escorts. Sands is exhilarated, while Truno nearly has a seizure, wondering why the young master came out at the worst time. Ryun's aura is so radiant that it makes everyone do a double take on their opinion about him. Seeing him now, they almost reconsider everything they assumed before. But Sands burns with jealousy because our boy overshadows him instantly, just because of his family's reputation. He walks right up to Sands and tells the man he has heard a lot about him from the fourth prince, his brother Lars. Hearing that, Sands smugly says he has heard much about him too. But before he can spill anything, our prince calmly says he is a truly kind person. He brings up how famous Sands was at his academy, and how he had to drop out after a few months because of his sheer popularity. Ryun reveals the messed up things he did, and smoothly reverses the roles. He says Sands once saved a poor kid from a bully, and even helped a female student who was being harassed by a shameless waste of oxygen. Sands is fuming inside, but our boy has yet to land the final blow. When he casually mentions something about his knee, Truno jumps in to defuse the situation. He pretends that Sands helped Lars by bringing him medicine for his injured knee. Then he quickly drags the prince away before things explode. Meanwhile, our boy is satisfied after absolutely grilling the white-haired prick. Sands takes his bold and mocking insults as a clear declaration of war. However, planting pure rage in the man is just the second step in his growing plan. Back in his room, Sands loses all his cool and shatters a flower pot across the floor. His temper explodes as he yells out insult after insult about our hero. Thinking back on the conversation, he realizes that Lars must have discovered that he did not leave the academy, but was actually expelled. Clutching his head, he curses under his breath that all that pressure to keep the incident hidden ended up being useless. He remembers the talk about the knees, and tells himself that the truth behind that specific incident must never be revealed. A flashback hits him, where he struggles to maintain a confident expression while barely catching his breath. Lightning magic dances around Lars, who tells the noble that he has really messed up this time. Sands tries to make excuses, spitting out that he did not know the girl was his partner and was only trying to greet the commoner. Ryun's older brother stays cold and reminds him that, before anything else, each person at the academy is a student. He commands him to kneel right now. Lars warns him that if he does not apologize from the bottom of his heart, then the entire Parton family will be crushed, and he will personally dispose of him. Sands collapses to his knees in complete humiliation while Lars keeps his lightning aimed at him. Snapping back to reality, Sands lets out another frustrated scream and tells himself that he must continue with his plans. He swears that he will silence Lars's younger brother no matter what it takes. After a moment, he forces himself to calm down and reassures himself that he will eventually get revenge on Ryun. A knock at the door breaks his thoughts, and he gives permission to enter. A figure steps into the room, which makes Sands raise an eyebrow in amusement, because he never expected a visit like this. The person turns out to be none other than Truno Hilda. Time skips forward to after the prince's party as our hero rides home in his carriage. He reflects that he managed to achieve every goal he had at the event, and presented himself well to the nobles. He is even happier that he succeeded in rage-baiting Sands, who fell for it in record time. Truno then speaks up and tells him that he performed marvelously at the banquet, and that he truly made him feel like there is still hope for the sermon house. Ryun calls him out instantly, saying that he did not build any meaningful connections, and even soured things with the House of Parton. The general manager quickly corrects himself and says that the speech he gave against Sands was truly peak. Our hero chuckles and presses the button in the middle of the carriage. Truno looks confused and asks what is going on. The guy nervously asks the young master why he activated the soundproof spell. Ryun calls him out, saying that if he truly believed there was hope, then he would never have chosen to betray the house. Truno starts sweating and stammers as he asks what the young master means by that. Our boy tells him that his crime is unforgivable, but he is choosing to let it slide since he did it for house sermon. The general manager lowers his eyes and quietly asks how Ryun found out. Our hero tells him that he has a choice to make right now, and the man can judge himself the same way he always did in the past. As the carriage keeps speeding forward, Ryun lets him in on the secret plan he has been hiding. The idea shocks the manager so hard that he just stares at the boy in disbelief, wondering how someone like him could think up something like this. The manager then buries his face in his hands and breaks into tears as he says that he wants to shout proudly at the top of his lungs right now. Ryun seems satisfied with the guy's choice and tells him that they have already passed outside the capital. Truno looks at him again and wonders how this kid can stay so calm when he knows exactly what is about to happen. He suddenly realizes that it is not a smile on the young master's face but a fierce, murderous intent instead. At that moment, the carriage jerks to a stop, and the knight riding alongside tells the driver to keep going. He notices the driver slumped over dead and barely dodges an arrow flying for his face. One of the knights yells that it is an ambush and orders everyone to protect the carriage. He warns the group that the attackers are firing poison magic arrows, and the mages instantly throw up a protective shield. The knight captain takes control as he swats the arrows aside and demands that the cowards show themselves. Another knight senses that something is off and shouts at the captain. The man warns him not to get too close to the cart even if he is an ally. The knight then tells him that the carriage is empty, leaving everyone confused. Ryun has gotten kidnapped by someone, and now that man is taking him somewhere on horseback. Meanwhile, our hero is thinking about how much time has passed. He remembers from his past life when he was kidnapped. His family spent their time and money searching for him, which became the reason for the Sermon family's downfall. But now, since he knows the future, Ryun is confident of changing it. This is why, after coming back to life, our protagonist showed no effort to save his family. By doing so, he knew that other noble families would have come after him. So this was his plan to make them think he is a complete loser. However, unlike other families, the Parton family doesn't just kill the strong ones, so he was sure they would try to kill him eventually. Fortunately, it seems Sans Parton, the son of the Parton family, has fallen into his trap, which means he will definitely take some action during his journey back to the capital, and that's why our boy was ready with a plan, along with Truno, who was actually sent by the Parton family to kidnap him. While lying behind Truno on the horse, Ryun orders him to act according to their plan, after which he will definitely forgive him. Alongside this, our protagonist is working on increasing his levels, which have now reached level 20. After some time, Truno reaches the destination and is about to hand over our boy, who is pretending to be unconscious, to Sans Parton. In reality, Truno is the head manager of the Sermon family who made a deal with the Parton family to sell the young master to them. Even though he was caught by Ryun, the Sans still thinks he is on their side since this is the plan. According to their agreement, Sans hands over the information Truno asked for, claiming they obtained it from the Asen family's intelligence, assuring its reliability. Seeing Truno still suspicious, Sans claims that, though they are also a noble family of the Drea continent, selling information is their main business. He gives Truno the documents, stating they contain all the information about eyewitnesses to the Sermon family's mission of direct descendants. Hearing this, Ryun finally realizes the reason Truno sold him, because he is a loser who can do nothing for his family and status. But his elder brothers are capable enough to regain what was lost, so Truno wants to find them. Although Truno knew the Asan family had this information, it was impossible for him to obtain it directly, so he used the Parton family. Taking his leave, Truno also pleads with Sans to keep his other promise, which is to return the young master safely to the Sermon family. Once Truno is gone, Sans and his servants walk up to our hero, and one servant asks whether he should kill him, but Sans Parton claims there is no need because his family will abandon him soon, as he is now the real culprit in their eyes. In order to carry out the main plan, Sans must go back. As the scene proceeds, our protagonist wakes up and finds himself locked in chains. Sans Parton is standing in front of our boy, mocking him about his pathetic condition as a son of the Sermon family. Although Ryun knows everything, he acts innocent and asks Sans the reason for being here. As Sans tells Ryun that he has kidnapped him, our hero threatens him about what is going to happen next. Since Sans thinks Ryun is a loser, he laughs it off. After this, Sans kicks Ryun's face, telling him his father and brothers must have died by now. Moreover, Sans mocks our hero by saying that Truno sold him to the Parton family in exchange for information about eyewitnesses to his brother's kidnapping so he can find them, but no one tried to save Ryun himself, since he is a pathetic loser. Furthermore, he challenges our boy, saying the war between their families is just beginning, and that this kidnapping is only the start. At this moment, Ryun glares at him and activates the magic circle power, which leaves Sans too stunned to speak. Still tied to the chains, Ryun declares he has been waiting for this day since his return to this life. Although the green light fills the area due to Ryun's magic, nothing is happening, so so Sans again mocks our boy. This time, our protagonist uses the silence magic circle on him, which results in Sans being unable to speak at all. Without the ability to chant any spell, his magic fails as well. Shocked and terrified, he then attacks our protagonist with firebolt magic, which does not require chanting. Ryun was kidnapped under the orders of the family head, who does not want him to die, so Sans is using the second circle magic, which our hero was actually expecting from him, but Sans is making a mistake here. Meanwhile, Sans thinks of targeting our boy's leg because, in this case, his father will not say anything. After analyzing Sans for a while, Ryun activates mana interference, which means every attack from Sans' partner will be wasted. Seeing this, Sans takes out a dagger, and as he is about to attack our hero, Ryun breaks free from the chains, something that isn't difficult for him. Moving forward, our hero uses paralyze magic and makes Sans unconscious. After some time, Sans wakes up, but now he is the one tied to the chains, while Ryun sits in front of him with a dagger in hand. Freeing himself from those chains, Sans thinks they are just ordinary chains without any magic, so he tries to break them easily, but as he attempts to do so, his body is hit by a high current, causing intense pain. Walking towards Sans, Ryun claims he has drawn magic circles over his body. This is actually a forbidden technique of drawing the circles into the flesh, and the blood activates the magic circle. In his past life, the same was done to our boy. First, the awakening magic was used so he would not sleep, and then he was made to endure unbearable pain when scars were carved into his body. Still confused about how Ryun knows this technique, Sans states that to his knowledge, Ryun is not allowed to use mana. Meanwhile, our protagonist has started practicing everything after revival, and due to past life experience, he gained a lot of help. After getting the mana pills 3 months ago, Ryun practiced every skill he could. Moreover, the secret he learned in Aedeon was helpful as well, which is that every skill has a circuit and a principle, and mana gets injected into each player's unique circuit to activate it. Furthermore, only master players like him know the existence of these circuits. With all this information, he did not struggle in the second life to achieve skills. Additionally, Ryun has visited this place secretly before to remember the location and structure so capturing Sans' partner would be easier. The magic circle our protagonist is using on Sans was supposed to be the other way around, but now he is going to make Sans experience the real pain. After torturing him for a while, Ryun prepares to leave, but Sans stops him. Turning back, our hero states he can run away before the arrival of Sans' family, which is coming in a week. Sans is shocked at how he knows this, so Ryun answers that he heard Sans ordering his servants to come back in a week. Since our protagonist knows the truth, Sans tries to deny it, saying they will actually come here any moment. But our hero knows he is lying, because if his subordinates were really coming at any moment, Sans would have tried to make Ryun stay there so they could kill him, rather than telling the truth like this. Although Sans tries to convince our boy to believe him, Ryun walks away, already aware of the reality, and tells him he will come again tomorrow. Now he prepares for the arrival of the Parton family, who will come after a week. After 7 days pass, the subordinates stand in front of the place where Sans and Ryun are located. The leader asks if anyone contacted Sans during this period, and one of them responds that although they weren't in contact with the young master, they observed all the passages here throughout the week. The leader then enters the building because the head has ordered that the sermon child be brought back immediately. Although others attempt to accompany him, he suggests they remain behind. Descending the stairs, the man notices something unusual, but as he steps onto the magic circle, he is immediately attacked by it. To defend himself, he erects a barrier, yet now he is certain that something has happened to the young master. Observing the various magic circle traps scattered throughout the area, he wonders who set all of these up. He creates a double barrier to reach Sans quickly and to identify whoever is responsible for all of this. Reaching the room where Sans is kept, he finds him bound by chains, with blood from his wounds covering the floor. Breaking the chains, the man demands the name of the person behind this, but Sans is too weak to speak. On the other side, our hero is present as well, sitting in a corner tied up with rope. Though Sans requests a healing potion, the man insists that escaping is the first priority, as he still doesn't know who is behind everything, and there are too many traps in the area. The man is puzzled about why the person responsible for Sans' condition didn't take Ryun along, which indicates there must be another motive. At this moment, Sans Parton finally manages to speak, saying that Ryun Sermon is the one who did this to him. Meanwhile, our protagonist remains in the corner pretending to be unconscious. As the man prepares to use magic on our hero, the real Ryun appears from behind, revealing he had used illusion magic as a decoy. Immediately, Ryun attacks the man, challenging him to face him first. The battle erupts between them, and both sides exchange attacks. After some time, the Parton family's man lands a heavy punch on our boy, causing blood to spray from his mouth as he collapses to the ground. Now, while our boy lies on the floor, the man states that although he cannot kill him, he can torture him just as he did to Sans. Unexpectedly, Sans seizes a dagger and plunges it into the man's neck. It is actually Ryun who has entered Sans' body using the soul transfer technique, And to add to that, the one who performs the soul transfer can control his own body as well. Our hero calls this his true trump card. After that, the man dies, so our hero takes out a healing potion and pours it over himself. Moving forward, he celebrates the fact that he has killed the Parton family's high-level archmage. Then, the system notifies our boy that his level has increased to 15 because he has completed the quest. He is still trying to understand how his level went up, but for now, Ryun knows he must take care of something else first. Next, he drags the archmage's body into a separate room and lays it on a wooden bed, clearly planning to do something with it. A circuit remains connected to a person's soul, which means he can still use his mana while inside Sans's body. So by removing the mana, our protagonist is dropping his level to meet the requirements for the assassin's hidden job, Shadow. Ryun finally succeeds in this plan, but with the levels remaining, he has 2 more tries available. Out of these 2 chances, our boy is successful on the second one as well. Although the plan was only supposed to go this far, after defeating the Archmage, Ryun decides to pursue a 3rd advancement to obtain the hidden job known as Ghost. This is a high-level job that helped Aedion become the strongest, and our hero feels confident he can get it too. However, the requirement for this job is the size of the soul, but Ryun is willing to take that risk. Without wasting any time, he begins the 3rd advancement. After much struggle and offering his own soul, he finally succeeds. And just as the system is about to inform him of his 3rd advancement, our protagonist feels extremely anxious. Fortunately, he achieves success here as well and becomes the Phantom-level Ghost job holder. The Phantom-level job is something our hero has never seen before, but he assumes it must be similar to the regular Ghost job. Now that Ryun has succeeded with this plan, he shifts his focus back to the original goal. Killing the Archmage was also part of this plan, since during the Ghost job, his own strength would increase as a result. Moving ahead, our protagonist activates Lich Creation, a process that normally requires a level 70 Necromancer, but can also be used by a 7-circle mage. The Lich Creation attempt fails, so the system activates a special undead creation instead. After a short while, a humanoid creature appears in front of Ryun. After the creation of the undead, the system asks our boy how he wishes to name it. The creation produces a sudden explosion, which puts the subordinates on high alert. After some time, our hero, still in Sans's body, exits the building with Ryun's body slung over his shoulder. Upon coming out, he explains that the Archmage betrayed them and caused all of this. Although he has bound the Archmage with an artifact, he urges everyone to hurry before the binding is broken. Meanwhile, he intends to return Ryun to his family. Mounting the horse, he instructs the others to restrain the Archmage until he can send help, promising a reward if they succeed. As our protagonist rides away, this becomes the last time they see the young master. Back at the Parton family estate, the servants report the situation to Pyrrhus, the 7th circle mage of the Parton family. When a servant mentions that the Archmage hasn't been found, Pyrrhus asks if anyone else is aware. Once the man confirms he's the only one, Pyrrhus orders his execution. The reason is that, although they are worried about Sans's disappearance, if word spreads about the Parton family's involvement in the kidnapping of the Sermon family's child, the consequences would be dire. At that moment, a disturbance is heard outside. Someone from the Sermon family has arrived and is killing their servants. Pyrrhus shouts at him to leave, but the man insists he will not go until he finds out what happened to the young master, Ryun. The recent explosion at the building, Ryun's week-long disappearance, and the Parton family's camp all point to their involvement in the young master's kidnapping. Trying to deflect suspicion, Pyrrhus claims ignorance and says their own young master, Sans, is also missing, suggesting they search for both young men together. The visitor refuses to believe him and is told to keep quiet. Truno, who is present as well, silently prays that the situation remains calm. Sena, a woman at the front, orders silence and calls him a traitor, but since Ryun has spoken on his behalf, he is being spared. At this point, Truno mentions that Ryun was supposed to leave a trace only the Sermon family could find. Acting on this, Sena begins searching, and after some checking, she finally discovers the clue. Sans Parton's body hanging from a tree, with a note stating, "I'm a kidnapper, please punish me." However, Sena finds a letter and begins to read it. In this letter, Ryun explains that his original plan was to remain in Sans's body and destroy the Parton family from within, but the risk of being discovered was too high. Furthermore, if he returned as Ryun, war would break out between the families, and the Sermon family was not prepared for that, so he is choosing to disappear for now. Sena burns the letter and tells Truno to return home. Meanwhile, a boy named Ryun runs through a town when a man calls him to the guild, saying the leader is looking for him. The boy is actually our hero. Later, Lady Sena learns that Ryun is, in fact, the Dragon of Drea. 3 months later in Painton, the capital of the Painstroy Kingdom, gossip spreads about the confrontation between House Parton and House Sermon. The cause of the conflict was a traitor from House Parton who kidnapped the bloodline heir of Sermon. Later, House Sermon had to accept House Parton's compensation. Still, they couldn't find either the culprit or the kidnapped son, making everyone doubt the Sermon family's claims. They were once a legendary household, but now they have completely fallen. At the Martin Assassin Guild, Sapphire, the Painton branch manager, sits observing the situation. She notes that the Sermon family seem to need the compensation money more than they wanted to search for their remaining bloodline. Duns brings up the execution of manager Truno while gulping down his beer. Sapphire explains that he had been cooperating with the traitor, which is why Alejandro carried out the execution immediately, beheading. Sapphire feels a little uneasy. Alejandro is a swordmaster, a rarity on the Drea continent, and yet he performs executions himself. Ryun enters, greets his uncle Duns, and approaches Sapphire in her office. She hands him a recommendation letter to officially register him as a guild member. Although he still has one test left, she slides the letter toward him, saying the test will be meaningless for someone like him. After all, he reached the final stage in only 2 months, which is surprising. She praises his exceptional talent at such a young age, something they haven't seen in centuries. He tries to act humble, but she quickly sees through his performance, though it's still better than when he first arrived. 2 months earlier, Ryun had suddenly appeared at their relatively unknown guild and slammed a large sum of money on the table for an assassination request. Since the guild accepts any request as long as the payment is sufficient, she treated him as an important client once she saw the amount. She insists that it wasn't just about the money. She had a gut feeling that she wouldn't encounter another client like him. Disguised as a beggar but carrying a fortune, Ryun requested that the target of the assassination be himself. Curiosity was the only sane reaction. After receiving the letter, he leaves, wanting to read it alone. Meanwhile, a masked man named Carl arrives and asks whether she accepted Ryun into the guild simply because of her intuition. Sapphire explains that Ryun completed all his training in 1 month, something that normally takes 5 to 10 years. She asks if he was able to investigate Ryun's background. Carl reports that Ryun was raised by an unnamed master who later disappeared, and that Ryun joined the guild to find information about that master. Because of Ryun's unusual request, he was thoroughly verified before being admitted into the guild. Carl also visited the place where Ryun supposedly lived with his master and confirmed that the place showed real signs of long-term habitation. What worries Sapphire is the possibility that Ryun might actually be Ryun Sermon, the missing young master of the Sermon family. Ryun appeared at their guild around the same time Ryun vanished. Carl reassures her that the possibility is almost zero. Ryun was known for having no mana, no swordsmanship talent, and terrible stamina, making it nearly impossible for the two to be the same person. He tries to continue his report, but Sapphire cuts him off. He can't act like a detective forever. Instead, she assigns him to search for information about Ryun's mysterious master. Meanwhile, Ryun listens to their entire conversation from his room using a necromancer skill. He realizes Sapphire has sharp intuition. He opens his status window and notices that the level consumed during his job change has returned. Investing mana into body domination had definitely been worth it. Not only did it alter his appearance, but it also prevents mana detection. It has reached a point where he can even deceive the shape detection skill of a second-grade assassin. That day, an undead girl named Kornak appears. She possesses a remarkable set of skills, and Ryun notices she is a growing undead. He is surprised by her phantom abilities, which were not mentioned in the skill description. When he checks the circuit, a hidden quest appears, one that requires discovering secret conditions to complete. The completion notification popped up after defeating Archie. The combination of Hand of Death, Phantom, a skill circuit, and the quest resulted in the creation of Kornak. Right now she is just a mana-eating monster, practically a parasite to him, but he believes that someday she will become useful. Growth, to him, is about looking toward the future, not the present. Lost in thought, he is interrupted by Duns. Ryun explains that he was simply singing about becoming a full guild member after the test, and someday becoming the branch manager. Duns assures him that at the rate he's growing, it's entirely possible. He then mentions the 3 final candidates, only one of whom can pass the test. Passing will make them an official guild member and a 5th-grade assassin. Paula, Rin, and Ryun stand before him as he announces the beginning of the test. Duns asks for the target's information. Rin reveals details about Alok, a 47-year-old merchant who runs a store and always travels with 3 mercenaries as guards. 2 of the mercenaries are bronze-grade warriors, and 1 is a silver-grade mage. According to a rumor, he recently took a young concubine and visits her every night. During that time, the mercenaries give him privacy. Duns is impressed by the investigation done on the target. Not only that, Rin was also able to find a method to avoid the guards. The only thing that concerns Duns is the guarantee that the target will actually go to the concubine's room. Rin hadn't considered that, and Duns explains that this is exactly why Martong always gathers detailed information. He then turns to Ryun, asking for the information he obtained. Ryun questions whether he really has to reveal it, surprising the other 2 contestants. Even if they cooperate to complete the mission, they will not become formal guild members together. Only one person will pass the test. Because of that, he doesn't want to share any information. The 2 contestants are irritated, realizing they spoke too early. In the end, they are only colleagues. Ryun denies even being colleagues, saying they didn't learn that during training. Duns approves Ryan's response as the correct mindset and urges them to focus on their test. Discarding or using others when necessary is part of an assassin's nature. He asks whether the other two have anything to say, and they deny it in unison. Duns announces the start of the assassination test, and they all run off. He is reminded of the time when Ryun himself had to be assassinated. The time limit was set to 3 days, and the location was Painton. The special condition was that they had to register him as a special grade trainee at the Martong Painton branch. The assassins laughed, thinking they could find Ryun within 10 minutes. It turned out they failed. They couldn't locate him for the entire 3 days. They indirectly praised Ryun's tricks and traps. After the 3 days ended, Ryun received training from Sapphire, as she kept her promise. Back to the present, Ryun reflects that becoming a formal assassin isn't easy. The target for this test has been set at the highest difficulty, and he might be at the beginning of something historical. Meanwhile, Paula successfully bypasses the alarm magic and mechanical devices, avoiding the mercenaries. However, he didn't expect there to be additional mercenaries. Rin manages to hide herself and thanks Paula, since things worked out for her because of his actions. The target has been the subject of countless assassination attempts, so the place he chooses to hide is his main wife's bedroom. The wife is furious with him for having a concubine, and for attracting assassins. He insists that he wasn't the one who brought assassins, and that the room is fully equipped with safety devices. Rin overhears the conversation from the rooftop and decides to take down 5 ordinary soldiers around her so she can attempt a frontal breakthrough. Meanwhile, Alok's wife threatens him with a knife. She feels betrayed by his affairs and for taking the family's money. He tries to explain that the business funds were insufficient, but she knows he used that money to buy a gift for the concubine. Without hesitation, she stabs him in the heart, then bursts into tears as she realizes what she has done. Rin watches the target die at the wife's hands and is left confused, unsure whether her mission is a success or failure. She suddenly thinks about Ryun and realizes she hasn't seen him at all. She returns to report her failure, stating that the target was killed by the wife and not by her. She is shocked to see Ryun already back, wondering if he even went to the mansion in the first place. Paula returns safely as well. He escaped when the mercenaries began fighting among themselves. Duns announces that the commission was not a failure, because Ryun succeeded. Both contestants stand stunned as Duns explains that Ryun had controlled the wife and used her to kill the husband with his skill. Then, Duns asks for an explanation, and Ryun explains with an annoyed expression. He says that the solution lay between the target and his main wife, using the target's internal affairs, making the contestants think that maybe the branch manager had given him special information on the target. But Ryun says that gathering information on him, who is a fairly famous merchant, wasn't a hard task to do, and according to Rin's information, Alok was a liquor distributor and had brought in a new mistress. While the two contestants were busy gathering their information, Ryun had already finished his investigation and started to move according to the plan he had prepared in advance. Paula wonders how he was able to finish investigating before he even knew who the target was. Ryun reveals that the target wasn't the only person he investigated. Everyone in the city with bad rumors or assassination risk was already investigated by him beforehand. He had started getting close to the merchants of the city who knew the rumors, and since he had completed training within 2 months, he was able to prepare for the assassination of each possible target. He prepared everything beforehand, no matter who the target ended up being. It was like revising the whole book for a small test. So while he was investigating, he learned that someone held a deep grudge against Alok, his main wife, Kelly. He got in contact with her while she was constantly being mistreated by her husband, and he taught her a solution: to secretly commission the assassination guild. As the target kept ignoring his wife and bringing in mistresses, he also kept running his business using his wife's family money. Kelly hated him enough to kill him, but she didn't want him to die, so he told her that if she hired additional mercenaries and strengthened security, her husband would simply get scared and stay safe. So, in the last moment when he ran to his wife's bedroom, Ryun had already suggested to her that she should frame the assassination commotion as a plot by the mistress and her lover, and that he would then come back to his senses and return to her. Kelly was drunk, and she accepted the plan, and he admits that everything would have gone according to her wishes if it had proceeded only up to that point. But right before the assassination plan took place, he also gave her some more information. Her husband had spent all the money he took from her family while claiming it was for business funds. Basically, the test was pre-planned, and he smartly diverted it in his favor. Duns is still confused about how a civilian woman stabbed her husband to death. Ryun explains that the alcohol that was delivered was mixed with a potion he made with alchemy, because it would be dangerous if casualties occurred, so he mixed some drugs into the water that the mercenaries also drank, and it happened to activate at the right time. The drug had the effect of temporarily clouding judgment and making one easily angry. Paula realizes that the mercenaries fighting each other was due to the drug he created. So in simple words, everything went according to what he planned, and the information he leaked combined with the effects of the drug made Kelly even angrier to the point where she killed him. Then, Duns congratulates him on clearing the test. Ryun also informs Duns that he is about to receive the commission fee and an extra charge from Kelly because Kelly suddenly became a murderer, but it is still a fact that assassins infiltrated. Only they know that Kelly killed him and not an assassin, and she would pay anything to cover herself up for the crime she just committed. All of them are left stunned, considering how high his level must be since his work is really sharp and respectable. Dunn sends the two contestants back but stops Ryun. He confronts him about what he has done, saying that the wife now has to live with the guilt of killing her husband for the rest of her life, and that there is something Ryun never took into consideration. Their guild makes assassins, not monsters. Ryun calmly explains that he viewed her as an ordinary woman until he realized that Kelly used to kill all the mistresses her husband had. Even Alok ruined many lives because of his drugs, loans, and running gambling dens behind his business. Kelly was able to hide all her killings due to her family's power, and her husband was tired of her, but he still didn't stop taking more mistresses even though he knew that every one of them would be murdered in the end. The mistresses' families are still looking for them, but Kelly's power easily conceals her crimes. These sorts of details are not normally revealed during an investigation, and this was, after all, an assassination request for a test case. Even if she didn't want her husband to die, the guild that received the request can only receive the full payment if the target dies. Then, Ryun questions whether the client's feelings or circumstances matter in an assassination attempt, because all they do is for money. He also says that Kelly never said she didn't want to kill her husband with her own hands. Instead, she tried to use the assassination request, and the request was completed in their own way. Even if the consequence is that she lives the rest of her life with guilt for killing her husband, it's none of their business. Duns wonders if conscience is unnecessary for assassins, and Ryun says that if they want to maintain their humanity, they should grow their power and change things from the root. No matter how much they search for conscience when taking assassination requests, there is nothing that can be changed, and then he walks away. Sapphire congratulates our boy on passing the test and announces that he is now a formal guild member and a 5th grade assassin. As soon as she announces it, his level goes up. His system notifies him that he has acquired Philip's and Pala's respect and has earned Dunn's expectations. Sapphire informs him that he can now accept the guild's official requests, and he can also apply for promotion if he meets the conditions. She didn't think he would apply for promotion right away, but he cuts her off and begins reciting all the conditions for promotion. Then he immediately asks how much payment the Alok request earned them, without any hesitation, and Sapphire feels a little pressured. She ends up telling him that the advance payment was 10 gold, the completion payment was 10 gold, and they also received 10 gold from Kelly for concealing the murder. He says that even if it was just a test, he is the one who completed the request and earned the additional amount, and since the promotion condition is 30 gold for a single request, he has met the requirement for promotion. He instantly receives the option to apply for a promotion to 4th grade assassin. She tells him to be cautious of being too arrogant and not to take them lightly, since they also have their own laws and policies as an organization. Among assassins, they are only considered the real deal starting from the 4th grade. Mostly, though, she is annoyed by his attitude since it disregards the other assassins. She tries to brush it off, but he loudly affirms that he will not withdraw the promotion application. She begins to yell at him, but Duns, who supervised the test, affirms that Ryun is qualified to take the 4th grade promotion test because it wasn't out of disregard for them. It was something important that he showed in the test: pure physical ability. He did not rely on elaborate plans, but on assassination skills using the body's capabilities as an assassin, and he won the assassination attempt with brilliant strategies. And not just that, but they can also take this opportunity to gauge Ryun's skill level, or they could teach him a lesson he will never forget. Sapphire thinks back to the tag game. It was mostly trap techniques. She finally agrees to a promotion test and warns him that assassins must risk their lives for this test, and he accepts the challenge. Later at night, the three of them sit with Duns, and Duns informs him that the earliest the test could be conducted is in a month or two. Until then, he could train him. But Ryun politely declines the offer because he wants to rest until then. He informs them that he will be away from the guild for a while, and once he becomes a formal guild member, it is okay for him to leave the branch's territory. He assures them that he will return before the test, and that he will stop by the Martin branch to check for updates on the test. Then they continue drinking together until they feel fulfilled. Ryun knows that he won't be getting any free time after becoming a 4th-rank assassin, because they receive requests continuously. Since the target is a branch leader, it's expected that there won't even be time to take a nap, so he needs to leave before that happens. He arrives at the Dark Zone, the land of the dead. Meanwhile, a noble sets out with his knights and sees our boy, immediately questioning who he is. Ryun gets up, saying his leg is injured and he can't walk anymore. He asks the noble to give him a ride to the village, or else he will die there. The noble acts arrogantly, saying he would have killed him if he weren't in a hurry. But Ryun clearly notices that he wasn't in any hurry at all. Ryun begs to be allowed on the carriage, and the noble, named Kennel, is instructed from inside the carriage to put the child inside. Kennel refuses and instead places him on the horse with him. While riding, Kennel questions him, and our boy introduces himself. The noble says he's only alive because of the young lady in the carriage, and he's lucky to have met her. But Ryun knows this wasn't luck, it was pure planning. The young lady was Sentin Rose, blood relative of the Rose family who bore the Rose crest. For that purpose alone, he cleared all dangers before departing, and he learned that the Rose family's procession would be taking the same road as him. So he had been living quietly in the outer territories of Feinstroy. But the Rose family had suddenly collapsed, and she was forced into exile. He knows that only minor nobles from the border region remain, so the escorts aren't even real knights. They are merely the family's private soldiers who were granted knighthood. The entire story behind the fall of the Rose family is tied to the Sermon family, as far as he has investigated. One of the knights wonders why the Sermon family is involved in all of this. Another knight says that the Cunning family assassinated the Rose family's head to hide evidence of their secret dealings. When Ryun hears this, he is shocked. After a while, they make a small stop. What Ryun learned today was the downfall of the Rose family, which originated from the recent conflict between the Sermon and Parton families, the Darren kingdom, to which Sermon belongs, and the Feinstroy kingdom, to which Parton belongs. The eldest son of the Rose family was affiliated with a rival nation and became a knight of the Sermon family, where the ties between them began. While performing duties in the Dark Zone, he was killed by a monster, and the Rose family was honored by the Sermon family with a massive aid. Another family, who competed with and resented the Rose family, began to support the Sermon family's actions and used the dispute as an opportunity. This led to the assassination of the Rose family's head. Rumors spread that the Rose family had been secretly working for Sermon in the shadows, and that Sermon wanted to hide evidence, so they killed the head. But the Rose family claimed that they were actually killed by Parton. However, it didn't matter, since Parton was a growing influence at the time. Now, after losing the head of their family and collapsing in power, the Rose family is being exiled toward Darren. The only ones who know the truth are those within the Rose family who did not abandon Sentin Rose. As Lady Rose sleeps inside her tent, the other knights are scattered around outside, some standing guard, others sitting by the fire listening to Kennel. He's going on about how the Parton and Ani families are actually the shady ones, while the Sermon family has always tried to help. The guards cheer at that, and meanwhile Ryun is quietly slurping down his soup beside them. One of the guards glances over at him, wondering if the kid is bored with all the political talk. Instead, Ryun raises a quiet concern of his own, questioning whether it's wise for them to speak so openly about such matters in front of a random child, especially in the middle of an exile mission. The guards just shrug it off and keep talking, pointing out that Lady Rose is the one who's suffering the most here. She, Kennel, and the newer knights lack experience, so they haven't fully realized how serious this whole mess is, especially when it comes to the Ani family. Ryun knows exactly what this means. The head of the Ani family is a hopeless womanizer who's had multiple assassination requests placed on him at the guild, requests Ryun personally rejected because the risk-to-reward ratio was awful. Despite his disgusting lifestyle, the guy is extremely cautious about his own security. And if someone that paranoid is targeting Lady Rose, then camping out in the open like this is pure madness. Just then, Ryun catches movement in the darkness, a quick leap behind them in the trees. Realizing it's a tail already following them, he decides not to risk alerting anyone by attacking. Instead, he slips away into the shadows and begins digging traps to slow down whoever's tracking them. By the time he gets back to camp, the guards stare at him in confusion, wondering why he's suddenly covered in dirt. They have no idea he's already prepared enough traps to stall the pursuer for a while. With that handled, and armed with the information he gathered from the Rose family earlier, he quietly heads back to his tent, intent on resting up so he can part away at dawn. The next morning, they start their journey again and eventually reach their destination, Dasum village. Kenil glances at Ryun and wonders out loud what a little kid like him plans to do in a village so close to the Dark Zone. Ryun casually lies that he's a merchant who deals in monster materials, and with that, he gets ready to part ways. But before he can walk off, the knight stops him and hands him a healing potion, apparently on Lady Rose's orders. Ryun is caught off guard, but he accepts it, and the caravan heads out, leaving him alone with the potion. He chugs it immediately, and just as he does, a group of horse riders thunder past him. Ryun instantly recognizes them as the pursuit party, mercenaries, swordsmen, magicians, and leading them is Garuta Ani, the second son of the Ani family. They all race by without even glancing at him. Even so, Ryun's honestly surprised they managed to catch up so fast despite all the traps he set. Then something else catches his attention, the potion bottle. Up close it looks expensive. Naturally it makes him wonder what Lady Rose was thinking, giving something like that to him when she's basically living like a fugitive and her family has almost no chance of winning. Ryun knows Garuda will catch her eventually. It should have been none of his business, or at least it was supposed to be. However, now that he's taken their pricey potion, he can't shake the feeling that he owes them something in return. So with a quiet sigh, he opens his magic circles and summons Kornak. From all its power, he declares her first task. As the Rose family moves along quietly, Kennel suddenly hears something and instantly goes on high alert. He urges everyone to pick up the pace and motions for the lady to hang back. The others are a little thrown by the sudden orders, but they fall in line as Kennel makes it clear that mana users are chasing them. With the border coming up, he sets a backup plan that if the pursuers catch up, the two frontliners are to grab the lady and get her to safety as fast as possible. Taking charge, Kenil turns and rushes toward the pursuers, ready to buy time despite knowing the Ani family knights are far above his level. Meanwhile, the Ani family riding party arrives at the mountain pass, surprised to see only one knight standing in their way. At the same time, Kenil stops his horse in front of them and warns them to turn away, but is shocked when Garuta Ani removes his hood, revealing who he is trying to stop. Though his fellow party members consider it reckless to show his identity, Garuda doesn't care. Their mission is to kill everyone except Saintine. Without hesitation, he orders his men to bring the girl before they cross the border. As the mercenaries charge, Kenil tries to stop them, but he is struck by a mage's blast and falls to the ground. Badly hurt, Kenil struggles to gather himself, but to his shock, Garuda also brings up his own knight. Even more surprising, it's Siso, Kenil's former captain of the Rose Knights, who Garuda has lured over with money. Wasting no time, Siso clashes with Kenil and, in just a few swings, manages to knock the sword from his hand. Relentlessly, he tries to persuade Kenil to abandon the Rose family and serve a new master, but Kenil refuses, even if it means death. Hearing this, Garuda gives the signal to finish him off. Just as Siso is about to deliver the final blow, something strikes him in the back. It turns out to be a green flame from Kornak coming to the rescue. Without pause, she follows up with multiple blasts that kill Siso in an instant, though Garuda is shielded by his mage just in time. Meanwhile, back near the border, the Rose family riding party is thrown into chaos. With the carriage completely destroyed, only two knights remain to defend Lady Rose with everything they've got, while the two Ani mercenaries mock them for being so easily overwhelmed. As the situation grows more desperate, Lady Rose herself steps out of the carriage. Calm yet resolute, she orders her men to lower their weapons. Then, holding a knife to her own neck, she demands that the Ani mercenaries take her if they wish, but warns that they must spare her men, or she will take her own life, which is clearly at odds with their employer's intentions. However, to her shock, the mercenary sneers that as long as she hasn't reached Darren, she is neither noble nor anything of worth. In the next instant, one of the mercenaries flashes behind her and snatches her knife, ready to show her what it means to cross a mana user. Seeing this, the Rose family knight attempts to retaliate, but before he can act, Ryun appears in a flash and delivers a powerful kick straight to the mercenary's face. The remaining mercenary, initially shocked by Ryun's sudden entry, is even more stunned when Ryun reveals that he is a Martin assassin who came prepared with a down payment of soup and a potion. Realizing the advantage, Lady Rose quickly puts the pieces together and offers 30 gold for handling everyone. Yet, for Ryun, this is far too little as he is willing to take the 30 gold just for the first mercenary. But there are still the second son of House Ani, the knight commander, and a mage remaining. Understanding the stakes, Lady Rose knows that if she doesn't act quickly and hire him, their exile mission will fail, and House Rose could fall. In an anxious state, she agrees to give Ryun everything he asks, and he gladly accepts. With that, he leaps into the air in a blink and charges at the mercenary, who hesitates, questioning if Ryun, having revealed his identity, is a real assassin. Ryun loads up his attack, and with a single swing, takes down the first mercenary, showing that he doesn't make mistakes, even confident enough to reveal his true identity. Thus, the first conquest at Martin begins for Ryun, with the price being everything. While Ryun lives in his moment of glory, the downed mercenary rises, laughing maniacally, claiming they won't be defeated so easily. Before Ryun can turn, the mercenary he had taken down first swings his sword at him mid-attack. However, Ryun easily dodges, forcing them to realize they cannot let their guard down against a Martin assassin. Reacting immediately, both mercenaries launch into a synchronized assault, using position-switching swordsmanship to attack Ryun at the same time. In response, Ryun activates his body control and acceleration, appearing all around them in the blink of an eye. This completely confuses the duo, who start suspecting illusions as they fail to land a single hit. For the moment, they decide to wait for the perfect timing to counterattack together, but little do they know, it's already too late for that. Ryun flashes in front of the men, revealing that he has already applied physical warnings and other curses on them. Before they can react, and as they begin to weaken, Ryun slashes them inside out, taking them down in a brutal blood splatter. As the sun rises, everyone gathers themselves, tending to the fallen and rebuilding the carriage. Around the same time, Kenil arrives. The moment he steps in, his first concern is for everyone's safety. Seeing him, Lady Rose feels relief and starts tearing up, while Ryun quietly knows it's all thanks to him. Curious, the guards wonder if Kenil took down all the pursuers by himself, but the knight reveals that he received help from a mage who appeared out of nowhere. With that aid, they were able to capture Garuda and defeat the traitorous knight. As they discuss the mage, Kornak herself arrives. Responding to Ryun's magic circle signal, she drops Garuda, wounded and beaten, from the spell. Seeing Ryun, Kenil recognizes him as the kid he helped earlier, but to his shock, Lady Rose reveals that he is an assassin from Martin. Recalling the fight, Kennel realizes that his presence might explain how the mage was able to take down enemies so easily while he was fighting. Hearing that he is from Martin, Garuda quickly tries to save himself, offering to pay triple to be let go, knowing that for an assassin, the reward matters more than the person. However, to everyone's shock, Ryun grows annoyed and uses his spell to cut Garuda into 2 pieces for talking too much. With that, he also makes his point to Lady Rose, showing what happens to those who try to skip their payment. Terrified, the lady agrees, and Ryun then approaches the reward, explaining that he doesn't want it immediately, understanding the Rose family's current situation. Still, he insists on a verbal contract for the deal, one that will remain secret. Once the agreement is set, he suggests they keep moving toward their destination, reassuring them that the guild will handle the corpses after they leave. With that, Ryun starts to leave, but Kennel, impressed by how thoughtfully he managed the situation, calls out to him. Ryun just winks in response, snaps his fingers, and vanishes before their eyes. This shocks the guards, but what truly surprises Kennel is that, despite the boy calling himself an assassin, what he summoned was not a normal undead. It clearly spoke in human language. On top of that, it almost simultaneously defeated Ciso and the mage. Seeing this, Kennel realizes that if someone can command such a powerful undead, there's a possibility that Ryun might be a disciple of the most legendary necromancer, Veda. Just a note, from this point on, Ryun will go by the name Leon whenever he's disguised as an assassin. Soldiers of House Rose didn't know how to proceed from there. Their boss, on the other hand, had a hopeful twinkle in her eye. All evidence points to Lord Leon being connected to the forgotten arts of necromancy. Leon's undead summons can wield magic equal to a third circle mage or a sword beginner, a level unseen on the continent. If the caravan's running theory is true, the repercussions will be immense. Getting ahead of the issue, Lady Sainton issued a gag order to all her men regarding what just went down. She doesn't mind letting the news of Garuda's death spread. He was pathetic until the end. The Lady of House Rose understands that they got lucky with Lord Leon's involvement for a mere bowl of soup and a bottle of potion. The least they could do is help hide his information. Captain Kennel was startled. The woman in front of him had grown vastly different from the meek girl who fled her castle. She no longer has desolate eyes, empty and drifting out on the road to exile. Given that he was relatively unharmed, Kennel was tasked with returning to Fainton and formally submitting an assassination request to Martin, as Lord Leon instructed. The assassination of Garuda has been completed, but the payment still needs to go through the guild. Lady Sainton trusts Leon's evaluation that there will no longer be any attempt on her life for the time being. No matter what, the remains of House Rose must make the best of what they have. Reinvigorated by Leon, Sainton became motivated to secure a foothold within the Darren Kingdom and begin House Rose's reconstruction. The lady of the house was so excited that she assisted in repairing the wagons. Leon was pleasantly surprised by Sainton. She perfectly exemplifies that a rose is not a plain flower at all. Her hidden thorns are starting to reveal themselves. In the past, the Black and White War dyed the entire continent in darkness and destruction. At that time, the warlocks cooked up a scheme to launch a revolt, an uprising. Their ultimate singular desire was to summon the Demon King. They were willing to kill however many people to get there. Using blood sacrifice, they raise an army of demons. Drunk with power, the warlocks took over the small southern kingdom of Lyco. The warlocks set their delusional sights on turning the small nation into the demon world itself. Naturally, the people of Drea continent fought against their insane plan, and war broke out. Every race, including humanity, sets its differences aside to fight a common enemy. The local inhabitants of the continent refused to surrender their land to warlocks and demons. Both sides fought with the sole intent of annihilating one another. In the midst of that apocalyptic chaos, Veda appeared out of nowhere. As a necromancer haunted by death's aura, he looked like he belonged to the side of warlocks. But Veda was surprisingly helpful to the cause. He healed the injured with black magic and swept the warlocks on the battlefield. Some allies found his brutal method repulsive, but to most allies who relied on Veda, he was known as a saint. He might look ominous, but he was a nice guy who only turned those who were willing to serve him, even in death. Veda's undead army was said to exist in a different dimension in terms of power. Through his many exploits, the coalition ultimately defeated the warlocks and demons, and the public perception of necromancers changed. In the aftermath, Veda refused every reward offered by numerous dynasties. He just ended a continental war, refused to elaborate, and vanished. Leon's call to show those knights Cornac was the right move. His little undead stirred up a misunderstanding to his advantage. He also uncovered Sainton Rose's potential. Despite the stressful situation, she showed qualities of a shrewd businesswoman. Leon will return to Darren and drop his disguise someday. Establishing a connection with an unexpectedly promising ally is an investment in his future. Ryun's future. While Ryun the noble's reputation falls to ruin, Leon the assassin gains fame. With Seaton Rose at the helm of House Rose's rebuild, it will only be a matter of time before they break out of insignificance. Leaving the caravan behind, Leon covered half a day's worth of distance since Dasung village. He was headed for a mystical gaping hole in the middle of nowhere, the starting point of the Dark Zone. It's time to take on 12 floors of pure madness. Without fear, Leon entered the hole and slowly made his way down. He had gotten deep enough that sunlight could no longer illuminate his way. The only sources of light were the randomly scattered ores, while unspeakable horrors hid in the dark. Humanity has defended the Drea continent for countless years. House Sermon always stood at the forefront of that defense. Through studies conducted by the forces of Sermon, they concluded that the Dark Zone is an underground dungeon, a towering spire, and a vast ocean all at once. It's practically a chaotic maze. The bottom floors 1 through 6 remain undiscovered, only existing in theory. Only floors 7 through 12 have been fully explored. The closer the floor is to the surface, the weaker its monster populace should be. Leon's current position on the 12th floor hosts everything from goblins and mutant beasts to orcs. Ryun was able to study this area back home, just a perk of being a Sermon. The 12th floor was believed to be the perfect place to level up. A grinding spot. Rather than hunting sparsely scattered monsters across the continent, a limited space densely packed with targets is far more suitable for Leon's needs. An ultimate hunting ground to be milked for all it's worth. In the Dark Zone, maps and compasses are entirely useless. One can only rely on navigation through mana. The 12th floor is roughly equivalent to a beginner hunting zone, but with far fewer visitors around, running into others is highly unlikely. Leon had been itching to freely unleash his new necromancer abilities until now. With no witnesses, he can stop holding back. A 2-word chant raised the pile of corpses back to life. Zombie goblins might be low tier, but they are perfectly adequate as meat shields. Furthermore, Hand of Death passively strengthens his summons and increases duration. This floor and this whole place weren't built for someone like Leon. At the helm of a whole undead battalion, the necromancer blew off some steam. The zombie goblins were gnarly. No pain, no fear, just slaughter everything on the way. It did not take long to clean out the 12th floor. Leon's army swelled to about 30 dead goblins. He can't exactly bring them all to the next floor, so he commanded their fall, letting the dead die. In his prime, he resurrected and commanded tens of thousands. Now his current limit is a mere 30 bodies. Although necromancy is stupidly overpowered, controlling dead soldiers individually is a constant struggle with mana drain. Leon can only do what he does due to his extensive experience and rock-solid mental fortitude. His current bottleneck is a severe mana shortage. This Dark Zone expedition was supposed to be an EXP grind to level up, but he is also open to solving his mana deficiency problem. To do that, he'll need to face the Floor Guardian. In Aedeon, they were known as boss monsters. For the 12th floor, it was in the form of a big, bad, horned beast. Without an undead army to do the legwork, Leon's progress did not lag. On his own, he had lost count of how many goblins and orcs he personally slaughtered. He killed a few hundred at least. Fighting the same mobs over and over was a pretty good grinding strategy, but it was tediously boring. Even in Aedeon, there are very few hunting grounds equal to the 12th floor's monster density. The whole Dark Zone just felt like dozens of dungeons combined and crammed together to vomit out monsters forever. Strangely enough, dead monsters do not vanish upon death in this place. They respawn after a set period passes instead. Among the many monsters of the continent, some formed colonies or interacted with humans amicably. Dark Zone creatures, on the other hand, are perfect monsters that only think of killing. For the time being, Leon elected to focus solely on increasing his magic stat to upgrade some skills. Cornac is in desperate need of upgrades too. Raise Dead increased in rank, improving every subskill covered under its massive umbrella. Leon had done everything that was done through ethical level ups. Now, it's time to abuse methods outside the system. Surprisingly, Cornac found something that greatly interested her, a piece of bone. It was a goblin shaman's finger bone. Ingesting Sukuna's finger increased Cornac's magic by 1. Perhaps focusing on this type of growing undead was the move. Rather than maintaining dozens of weak undead, raising a single one like Cornac should be far more profitable. However, summoning rare specimens of undead was something he couldn't even do in his prime. Replicating its conditions is a mystery for now. Since monsters from the Dark Zone are soulless, Leon had to bring out his own corpses to experiment with. Garuda's corpse must be turned over to the guild for confirmation, but the rest of the dead bodies were fair game. It was a good thing Leon stored their remains in a corpse storage through a subspace skill. Today, he plans to dabble in the art of soul extraction. If he succeeds, he will secure the power needed to breeze through the Floor Guardian. Speaking of the devil, the boss is busy snacking on some gross meat from its pile of mangled body parts, clueless about what's to come. The 12th Floor Guardian is a well-known entity, as it appears in the weakest section of the Dark Zone. Even so, horror stories about the monster have spread widely among challengers. The Sermon family gave it a very fitting nickname, Human Slayer. At level 23, the Orc Giant Berserker seemed like a nightmare matchup even for Leon. Right from the jump, he was exposed to Orc Fear, a debuff that temporarily decreases stats. Thankfully, the blue earth breathing technique dispelled the fear. The preparations are set. In an environment akin to a maze, mobility is a luxury. To afford such complete freedom and movement, Leon summoned an undead wolf as his mount. His freshly resurrected zombie wolf was originally an orc chieftain's ride. This ghostly entity will vanish once he stops magic infusion. Befitting of a monster that his family hunts by using overwhelming numbers to take down, the human slayer is a force of nature. The beast was riled up by the presence of Leon scattered all over beforehand. The more worked up it gets, the easier it is to get a clean look. When he saw an exploitable opening, Leon and his zombie wolf stopped hiding. Focusing on offensive power, he slammed the giant with a potent spell from behind. It dealt some damage, but the wound it left was too shallow. If Leon's level had been a bit higher, this would have been quick and easy. To supplement his lack of damage, he targeted the cut he made and exacerbated the injury with wound aggravation. The human slayer roared in agony as a result. Desperate to retaliate, the floor guardian loaded up a curse-type skill. In his efforts to stop the boss from struggling, he pushed the monster to enter a berserk state. It won't feel pain and will gain a temporary power boost. Engaging an angry human slayer in a battle of physicality would be a suicide mission. Fortunately, Leon has his meat shield corpses to take the hits for him. A rabid pack of goblin zombies eyed the floor guardian like it was just a very angry piece of beef. With more bodies on the floor, the boss fight is now a proper raid. In Leon's last experiment using the corpses of Arnie's gang, he failed to create a special undead. Thankfully, he found another way to bolster his army's power through undead enhancement. Using the corpses he failed to convert as fuel via soul sacrifice, his zombie goblin horde was temporarily augmented. The soul of a deceased swordsman granted the goblins access to the knight's abilities. Kornak, on the other hand, consumed the totality of the dead mage's soul. Her abilities were permanently enhanced, and some of her past life knowledge was restored. The commander stays back, Kornak attacks from a safe range, and the juiced-up zombie goblins take all the risk. Without lifting his own fingers, Leon aims to let his summons finish off the bastard. Despite the difference in size and power, the goblins didn't hesitate to throw themselves at the boss. The human slayer was besieged from all sides, completely focused on swatting away the annoying critters. When it finally killed some of the pesky goblins, Leon's trap was triggered. Those zombies were rigged by Leon to emit deadly poison when they die. Since the human slayer was still holding out pretty well despite everything thrown at it, Leon activated Commander's Eye. Seeing the field with extra clarity, Leon monitored the floor guardian's berserk state weakening due to the poison. Once a careless opening was exposed, it was Kornak's time to do her thing. The human slayer already looked busted from the toxins coursing through its veins. It looked even worse as its body began exploding from the inside. Kornak hovered over her prey with a big-ass magic circle, ready to pump out a finishing move. She produced a whirlpool of infernal fire, eager to burn its target below to a crisp. With the master's permission, Kornak unleashed a max-power firebolt on top of the enemy's head. Judging from the miserable state of the floor guardian, her flames might be a bit overkill. She made it rain anyway, making the beast stumble while it was grilled alive. Kornak watched with a sadistic smile as the guardian's limbs were blown up one by one. By the time the fireworks settled, the human slayer was like a giant candle that lit up the entire floor. It was cut, poisoned, and burned without being able to lay a hand on the mastermind of its demise. The tenacious berserker groaned and grunted laboriously, but it held on for dear life, proving itself worthy of being the opening floor's protector. Without a need for human shields, Leon unsummoned his zombie goblins. He watched the human slayer demonstrate a stubborn will to live despite the pain it was feeling. To put a definitive end to the fight, he pulled the Hand of Death. After several days of testing, he managed to rank up the skill, consequently unlocking a new ability. He was rewarded with an ability exclusive to high-tier liches or powerful necromancers earlier than expected, the Vicious Life Drain. A skill that restores the user's health and mana by dealing damage is beyond broken at this stage. To nerf him slightly, the system capped his absorption limit according to his current level. Nevertheless, the stack of debuffs and lethal injuries brought down the Guardian not long after. The hunt for the human slayer was a success. Leon was given special experience points for slaying the human slayer. His level increased, and the system encouraged him to use soul extraction on his fresh kill. The chance of success was estimated at 57%. He assumed entities within the Dark Zone lacked souls, but the system implies that a floor guardian is an exception. The odds are slightly in his favor. He can't let the opportunity slip away. Without hesitation, Leon used soul extraction, drawing the doomed soul out of the dead vessel. It was an intense process. Even after death, the berserker's will refused to cooperate. Through gritted teeth, Leon was able to wrestle control and succeeded in extracting the human slayer's soul. His technique definitely worked, but something felt off. The corpse didn't fade away after extraction. Normally, the empty husk is supposed to dissolve after death before re-emerging in time for the next challenger. If he leaves a giant empty vessel of a floor guardian like this, the patrolling Sermon Knights will undoubtedly discover it. As Leon expected, the Knights of Sermon entered the dark zone after he snuck in. They marched towards the floor guardian's lair, but were startled by what they found. The whole place was marked with clear leftovers of an intense battle. By the scope of destruction, the party's scout estimated at least 30 highly disciplined elite units were involved in this scrap. No groups of adventurers or trainees that large were reported to have entered the dark zone recently. Analyzing the aftermath more closely, veterans could tell that the damage wasn't random. There was a distinct strategy at play. One thing is for sure, humans were behind this bizarre development. The death of the human slayer is now confirmed, putting the Sermon Knights on red alert. Without a floor guardian, the monster on the 12th floor will eventually grow restless and try to break past their designated zones. It is the depleted Night Order's duty to clean up after the unknown hunter's mess. While everyone was trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle, Yang was mulling over some interesting tidbits. His injured arm from the last job hasn't healed yet, but he chose to return to the front lines. Jang didn't see mere leftovers of a battle in this lair. What he saw was the message he had been waiting for. While the knights were twiddling their thumbs, Leon had already found the way onto the next floor. As soon as he crossed a bright cavern opening, he was transported to a completely different biome. It was hard to believe that lakes and marshlands would exist so deep underground. Leon explored the area deeper, and once he was far enough away from the entrance, he opened his corpse storage and retrieved the human slayer's remains. Under normal circumstances, this thing should have disintegrated into nothingness, but it didn't. Furthermore, a different issue has arisen for our boy. His quest list has grown too cluttered. His first system quest was triggered by his victory against Ake, and the second popped up when he joined Martin. The Path of the Necromancer and the Path of the Soul appeared when he slew the human slayer. Responding to his curiosity, the system decided to merge both paths into a single quest against his will. The unrelated side quests resonated with each other and triggered the start of the main quest. Veda's Legacy questline has commenced. The Path of Revenge questline has been converted into a main quest to rebuild the Sermon family. On the other hand, the Path of Assassin is now a proper job quest to obtain a Class 4 assassin qualification from Martin. Something had changed in the system. It has started to function similarly to Adion's system. As far as he could tell, the transformation occurred when he got involved with Veda's Legacy through the Human Slayer. Furthermore, the only world quest he's ever received in Adion was slaying God. The only way to learn more is to complete what it entails. He used Raise Dead on the Human Slayer and unexpectedly felt some friction in the process. Leon's mana is now being drained at a dangerous rate. He had resurrected many corpses in the past. None of them drained him this hard. No matter how risky it was, it worked. The Human Slayer was brought back from the dead with a more imposing form. The first thing it did was march to its master and bend the knee with utmost respect. Leon was expecting an undead on par with Kornak. This skeleton berserker might be just that. The first part of Veda's Legacy had been completed. A new quest to complete the Human Slayer has started. He's going to need a hero's soul to complete it. Despite devouring most of his mana, the undead hasn't reached its full potential yet. Leon cringed at such poor efficiency. Leon quickly familiarized himself with the local monster population of the 11th floor by unleashing his skeleton berserker and letting it wreak havoc. Even if the system labeled it incomplete, it's quite useful for cleaning up trash mobs. The only glaring downside was the mana requirement to keep it active. This berserker is a special entity in its own right. Unlike normal summons, it can be stored in the corpse storage without falling apart. The problem is its constant demand for mana. At this rate, raising other undead would be impossible. Still, Leon found a way to utilize his new toy. Kornak the Mage will cover long-range attacks, and the Skeleton Berserker will be a tank and warrior for close combat. Using this strategy reminded Ryun of his days in Adion when he hunted with a party. The system showed him progress pop-ups, and he was reminded of another reason he came to this place. Away from combat, he channeled the blue earth breathing technique. His senses covered the entirety of the 11th floor. He was disappointed when nothing in the area stood out. According to Martin's intel, this dark zone was the location where his brothers were last seen. He's been constantly activating blue earth breathing to find some resonance, but there was nothing. The 11th floor might be a bust, but the intel pointed to a deeper location, the 9th floor. However, Leon was unclear whether he could tackle the 10th floor and beyond with his current strength. Just as he was about to give up searching on the 11th floor, he felt a strong resonance with his technique within the detection range. So he hid his presence and followed the resonance. He spotted two people, one of whom wasn't a knight or a mage. If they were, they would have hidden their footsteps better. The real threat is the one-armed man moving with trained precision. If these people were vassals of the Sermon family, Ryun briefly considered revealing himself, but he'd rather stick with his disguise for the time being. As it turns out, he doesn't need to. Someone he knew very well materialized behind him out of nowhere. Sena easily recognized and detected her student without Ryun sensing her at all. As for the people he was tailing, they turned out to be Chief Steward Truno and Jang. Jang was the one who saw the traces Lord Ryun left behind. The disgraced chief steward knew that if any unprecedented anomalies occurred in the Dark Zone, it would be a signal of Lord Ryun's arrival. They weren't the only ones who tagged along to this meetup. Like a wild animal stalking her prey, Ryun's angry mom cornered her cub. She might look intimidating from afar, but in truth, she was just relieved that her little boy was safe. It's been a while since they last saw each other. Forced to run the family by herself, she was always so busy. Back then, immature Ryun didn't realize that all her efforts were for the family and for her only remaining son. They never really had a real relationship in the past because Ryun deeply resented her absence. Wiser and older, the current Ryun won't make the same childish mistake. His mom is constantly working to keep the last of her blood alive and well. Sena put up a barrier in the middle of the 11th floor so everyone could speak freely. First, Ryun addressed Jang's severed arm. Jang explained that he was injured due to the Phaeton family ambush. Due to this wound, he was entrusted with the vital task of protecting the chief steward in hiding. The world believes that the traitorous Truno Hilda is dead, but he's just living low-key in the heart of the Dark Zone with Sena's help. Mom was genuinely proud of Ryun for inspiring such earnest loyalty from his subordinates. He truly captured their hearts magnificently. She's heard that her son orchestrated this complicated web of plans within plans. As Celine Sermine, guardian of the house rather than just a mother, she has the responsibility to ask what's really happening. Celine wanted confirmation if her child truly killed a finger of Phaeton and handed the despicable sons to Sena. With no reason to lie to his mom, Ryun verified what she already knew. Using Son's Phaeton as living evidence, Ryun forced House Phaeton's hand to pay up with a massive settlement. He used his own kidnapping as a gambit and succeeded. Celine was having a hard time believing that her son could make such a big brain move. Puffing his chest with pride, Ryun Sermon assured her that this was real. Though he might not be the Ryun she once knew, he's still the son born of her flesh. Being unburdened by his assurance, Celine thanked the goddess Aldrisi. But before she lets go of the subject, she wanted to know why she could sense the aura of death all around him. Naturally, she detected the energy of a necromancer within her own son. She is a swordmaster and a paladin after all. Clumsy excuses will not work against a holy knight like her. When Sons kidnapped Ryun, the signal for his plan was given to everyone relevant. Truno, Sena, Jang Dro, and his mom are all indispensable to the execution of his next moves. To keep them close, he must make them understand the changes he went through. So he told them everything, a careful mix of truth and half-truths. Ryun claimed that he had a dream one day. To be precise, it was a revelation. The dream chronicled the fall of the Sermon family. He saw a territory burning in a war against the forces of Phaeton. The Darren Kingdom and the other great families turned a blind eye to the horrors. Colin and many of Sermon's retainers were slaughtered in cold blood. Truno and Sena understood that if the conflict with the Phaeton family escalated further in reality, the Lord's dream might have come true. It could have ended with Ryun, his mother, and his little sister taken as prisoners. Sena would push her abilities beyond their limits and perish. Alejandro would be riddled with arrows protecting his lord, meeting a miserably painful death. After years of harsh torture and human experimentation at the hands of Sons, Ryun would succumb to the cold embrace of death. Of course, parts of this alleged dream truly happened in his previous life. It made him realize who he was and what he must do. The revelation also unlocked what Ryun Sermon was truly capable of. The dream he mentioned felt less like a child's dream and more like first-hand experiences of a grizzled veteran. Sena and everyone else could feel the vivid horror Ryun was conveying. Celine listened and reacted with reservation. He swore in his name that the dream was the catalyst for everything that has happened. If it were anyone else, it would be easy to dismiss his so-called revelation as utter nonsense. Sena theorized that the power passed down through the Sermon bloodline might have finally awakened within Ryun. Regardless, he's been operating from the shadows to prevent that nightmare from becoming a reality, and he's succeeding. He has the power to defeat the Finger of Phaeton and walk through the Dark Zone by himself. Ultimately, Celine chose to believe her son's story. She recognized his decisions and actions befitting of someone who will shoulder the future of the family. She is ready to support his path with all her might. It was a relief to hear that coming from his mother. There's no turning back now. Encouraged to speak up, Ryun suggested that House Sermon relinquish its status as a great family. Initially, he received some pushback from his people. As chief steward, Truno cannot allow such a drastic decision. Losing their qualifications and being demoted to a common house would be a death knell to any great family. Of course, Ryun was fully aware of the implications. With their current strength, regaining their status would be next to impossible afterward. That status is synonymous with absolute authority and power. Great families stand above nations and hold the right to decide the fate of the world when calamities threaten humanity. They are the only entity qualified to represent the world in matters involving dimensions beyond Drea. This boy was practically telling them to toss what little power House Sermon currently holds, or the Phaeton family will declare war sooner or later. Those vultures know the current state of House Sermon better than anyone. They're just trying to look for a worthy gamble to wrestle the title of the greatest family. Ryun urged his people to consider their chances of winning when that war breaks out. Once a conflict between great families begins, even kingdoms cannot intervene, putting them at a disadvantage. But if they discard their classification and hide under the kingdom's banner, they will be protected by the continent's law. For that to happen, Celine Sermine must pull the trigger. This is not a matter of running away or giving shit up. It is merely a strategic retreat and a brilliant move to lure their enemies into a trap. She should think it over, but they don't have much time. In addition, Ryun suggested bringing his little sister Maria back to Sermon territory. It's a chaotic time for House Sermon, but Maria is his mother's only hope. Celine has certain expectations that only his little sister can achieve. Putting her in the midst of chaos is the only way to draw out what she's truly capable of. Despite how risky it sounds, his mom was surprisingly open to implementing his plans. She also admitted that she should have done everything Ryun laid out long ago. If she can play her part, they can avoid unnecessary sacrifices in the long run. Listening to her boy, Celine believed she was no longer capable of leading the family. Just when Ryun thought everything had lined up, she started tweaking and drawing her sword. She might be a holy knight and a matriarch, but she is a mother first and foremost. As the temporary head of the family, she intends to test whether he is qualified to take on such a heavy responsibility by making Ryun withstand one of her attacks. Tanking a strike from a holy knight swordmaster who once vanquished evil as a paladin sounds impossible, but Ryun understood what his mom was trying to do. He's the only direct heir fit to inherit the highest seat in the house. His father and brothers are as good as dead. Even though it is unofficial, she intends to hand over the position to Ryun right here and now. If he could live through this tribulation, she agrees to take full responsibility for convincing the elders and the rest of the family. Her challenge triggered the creation of a new quest, Celine's recognition. Without another word, Celine Sermine lifted the holy blade above her head. Ryun tossed away his cape and equipped his dual daggers, confidently bracing himself. His mom was once hailed as the Silver Dragon. It was a moniker fit for an absolute monster. She might be a swordmaster and paladin, but she cannot utilize different energies simultaneously. If she leans on the power of a swordmaster, she will use a mana-based attack. And if she taps into her paladin roots, she will use potent holy power. Ryun's success hinges on his ability to react to whatever she chooses. For a split second, he sensed the type of power she was accumulating. He saw the trajectory the sword was traveling in, but his mom was way too fast. From afar, it looked like Ryun couldn't even react and was sliced cleanly in half. Celine Sermine did not hold back, even though her target was her only living son. Even she was surprised that Ryun neither blocked nor dodged her attack. She pulled the holy blade back and saw her child's body turn translucent. Ryun was lucky that his mom used a mana-based attack that he could phase through. Etherealization is a skill that utilizes the power of a ghost, a fundamental ghost ability he mastered over 100 years in Aedeon. Despite his immaculate timing and flawless execution, he still sustained some deep wounds all over his body. He's a little out of practice. The skill hasn't been perfected for his current body yet. Disturbed and feeling guilty, Celine cradled her bleeding son close. Ryun tried to assure her that he was okay, but she insisted on using healing magic on his wounds. He was actually glad to have gone through this. He promised to cherish the scar this wound will leave as a reminder of his mother's love and concern, a mark of being her son. More than anything, he was thankful for his mother's support and belief. Earning Celine's recognition completed his recent quest. It rewarded him with a small amount of EXP, increased the skill rank of etherealization, and leveled up Phantom. Sena took down the isolation barrier as the private meeting wrapped up. Ryun still has business to attend to, but he handed his people a written plan to restore the family's status, as well as what comes after. Of course, they tried to make him go back home. Sena even made him guilty about leaving Colin and Alejandro without a word. It's likely for the best to leave Alejandro in the dark for the sake of his own growth. But Ryun would gladly pay Colin a personal visit soon. Even if Knight Commander Alejandro finds out later, that old fart won't hold a grudge. That's the kind of person he is. Finally, Ryun bade his mom and his subordinates farewell. He left the Dark Zone and headed for the Darren Kingdom. Ryun went straight to Martin's intelligence branch and was welcomed as Leon, the 5th-class elder. A letter from the Phaeton branch was waiting for him. As expected, it was a letter regarding his 4th-class promotion exam. It detailed instructions for his mission. Detecting this new information, the system formulated a new quest for the 4th-class promotion exam. It was a simple task. Assassinate the mage named Goma in Khaled, a territory near Darren. Ryun has heard of Goma of Khaled before. He is a fitting target for promotion to 4th class. According to the intel, Goma appeared in Khaled one day and created a dungeon. Since he settled in there, villagers have begun disappearing one by one. The mercenaries and adventurers hired by the poor villagers have also gone missing. They appealed to the Lord, but no proper investigation was carried out, forcing the villagers to turn to a more specialized organization. Ryun must clear the dungeon and assassinate Goma. No need to overthink it. When he reached Khaled, he saw firsthand how desolate it was. Villagers constantly fear for their safety at all times, and they don't take too kindly to strangers. The only villager who talked to him was an old woman who told him to leave the village, for it is not safe for a mere boy. She doesn't know what brought him to her small village, but she warned the boy about the fog of death that settled over this place. In Khaled, men of all ages, adults and children, have been vanishing without a trace. The disappearances are inextricably linked to the foot of the mountain near the village where the sorcerer settled. The old woman doesn't want to see another boy perish and advises Ryun to get lost. But when her daughter showed up, the young blonde insisted that nothing was wrong. Since Ryun is obviously from out of town, she pointed him in the direction of the village inn where he could stay. It was obvious that she didn't want him to leave Khaled for some reason. The old woman tried to warn him again while the daughter forcefully dragged her back to the house. Martin's intel included accounts of schemes luring outsiders to this place. Rumors imply that the mercenaries and adventurers deployed were being sacrificed in place of the locals. Keeping that in mind, Ryun headed for the inn with a gut feeling that he shouldn't hunt Goma immediately. No matter who the target is, operating on incomplete information is something he would never do. Besides, he's meeting someone in town. In fact, they had already found him. At the inn, he struck up a conversation with the innkeeper about old Lady Sarman from earlier. According to the innkeeper, old Sarman is a tragic soul who lost both her sons recently. Miss Innkeeper confirmed that the village men, as well as travelers visiting the village, have been vanishing, so he had better be careful. The Lord of Khaled supposedly sent private soldiers to investigate, but found nothing. Still, she was feeling optimistic now that the locals pooled their money to recruit some real experts to handle the mess. She was, of course, talking about the assassin guild, Martin. It cost them a lot of money to enlist a real heavy hitter. Even Miss Innkeeper was drained of her funds. Although it goes against her business, she kindly advised the young man not to stay in the village for long. Suddenly, the empty inn was filled with even more visitors from faraway lands when a party of mercenaries entered. They weren't some cheap company either. Their group had a mage, a red-haired baddie. The leader of the pack was dressed like Dr. Strange. He demanded to be served some food while the rest of the mercs complained about how long they had traveled. According to the blue-haired Bayak, their client will meet them at this inn. Ryun caught a glimpse of silver badges on their chests. Silver rank parties are quite competent. The crowd within the inn continues to grow as a young lady, obscured by a dark cloak, enters. She wasn't the client the mercenaries were waiting for, but she walked past their table, quietly evaluating the party. The lady then approached Ryun and asked for permission to sit next to him. Without waiting for a response, she took a seat, took off her cloak, and got more comfortable. The pink-haired lady introduced herself as Lavina. Surprisingly, she knew who Leon the assassin was. This girl must be the assistant sent by Sapphire for the dungeon raid. Honestly, he was quite pissed that Martin sent a mere guide instead of a fellow assassin. Calling him by his name in an open space is reckless and unprofessional, but she doesn't seem to know that. She was just honored to meet him. She went on and on about how everyone at the Martin branch had been talking about the new outstanding talent, and how nearly everyone had compromised his cover. He had to force her to shut up or else. Thankfully, she understood what he was trying to say. On the other table, Bayak is growing impatient with their absent client. Apparently, he gave up a troll hunt to come to this backwater village, hoping for a worthwhile payoff. Clearing their first dungeon could be a chance to make the Steel Shield mercenary group famous. If things go well, they can even think about a promotion. Overhearing their conversation, Lavina ominously whispered that these mercenaries are just rookies. They have no idea how utterly terrifying a dungeon really is. Looking at their equipment, none of them appears to be a specialist in disarming traps or pathfinding. They're just a group of brutes thinking they could fight their way through. Even worse, it's obvious that they're overly relying on a single mage. They're treating her like some kind of universal silver bullet. That's why Lavina only respects professionals like Leon. Finally, the client who called in the Steel Shield mercenary group arrived. It was old Lady Sarman. She wordlessly tossed a sack of riches to the table, letting its precious contents glimmer and spill. Sarman scraped together her entire life savings to afford their service. All she wanted was the death of the mage preying on the village and for the body of her sons to be brought back home. All she wants is to bury them in a sunny spot. The mercenaries didn't give a damn about her sob story. They were more focused on the plentiful reward. Dr. Strange formally accepted the quest, assuring her that failure is not an option. Greedy and shameless, this bastard claimed that the reward was still a little too low considering the danger of the job. It was a total rip-off. Both Lavina and Leon could see that. Old Lady Sarman figured as much. So, she tossed another precious reward into the mix, a golden ring with a purple gemstone, her family's heirloom. This was supposed to be passed down to her daughter-in-law, but now she just wanted to give her sons a proper burial. One look at the ring triggered an update on Ryun's Legacy of Veda questline. According to the system, the ring is a map showing the location of a hero's soul. Lavina noticed the change in Leon's demeanor when he saw that update. He must get his hands on that treasure somehow. Bayak tried to reject the ring as a paltry addition to the reward, but the party leader readily accepted. Without wasting any more time, the Steel Shield mercenary group rolled out. Dr. Strange kept the ring to himself. He might be the only one who could see its real value and what an unexpected windfall it truly was. In the middle of the night, the mercenary group trekked through the foot of the cursed mountain. They set up camp and let their mage perform an appraisal spell on the ring. She confirmed that it was a magic item, but she couldn't determine its specific use. If it's an item above her current level, then it is likely worth a closer look. Regardless, this is a massive win for their troop. All they have to do is kill some nobody mage in a rural village after all. How hard could that be? The leader is quite satisfied with the haul. Miss Mage was looking forward to finding other magic items inside the dungeon. There's bound to be something valuable in there. After the quick appraisal break, they continued their trek. At the same time, Leon the assassin monitored their every move from a safe distance. All he could say was that these bozos are way too overconfident in their skills. They're about to barge into an unknown dungeon without even gathering proper information. Lavina could tell from the look on his face that he was silently judging the mercs. She was acting more like an overseer than an assistant. She could tell that he only moved to tail these rookies because of that magic ring they received. She is dangerously observant. Since Leon just wanted the ring, she casually suggested killing the entire group and taking the goods for themselves. Leon did not appreciate her crudeness at all. He is an assassin, not a bandit. There's a difference. He won't debase himself to the level of a common thief. A few minutes later, the mercenaries reached the dungeon entrance. They didn't even inspect what they were going into. They just stepped right in. Not long after, Leon and Lavina stood before the magical entrance. This time, she could yap and annoy Leon all she wanted because of the noise suppression ring she lent him before they left. He asserted that the guild gave him the ring, not her. Despite his prickly attitude, Lavina was happy that he was assigned to assist a promising talent who received a designated request as soon as he became a regular member. Everyone in the guild couldn't shut up about the assassination of Garuda. They say the fallen Rose family commissioned Martin for a massive sum. Lavina heard they earned 100 gold in one transaction, and Leon was kind enough to put the entire commission back into the organization. Martin was supposed to get just a portion of that, and a hefty sum should have been paid out to Leon separately. Once guild commission fees take a cut, he would suffer a huge loss. But upon thinking about it, Leon was convinced that Lady Rose isn't the type to spend so much money foolishly. She likely overpaid to generate buzz and ensure the news reached him. Lady Sainton Rose is basically forcing him to seek her out, even if it's just to settle the score. Lavina's glazing continued until Leon held her lips shut. Leon's distaste for the incompetent mercenaries was palpable. Come to think of it, he followed the promotion exam through a quest only to encounter a map for a hero's soul by chance. Everything lined up too perfectly. It feels too convenient to be a mere coincidence. Following the rookies wasn't originally part of the plan, but here he is. With the involvement of the ring, he estimated that the level of difficulty had increased. He didn't get lucky. The system is simply showing its functions. It's finally taking the proper shape of the Aedeon system he once had. System or not, something sinister is hiding in this dungeon. It hadn't even been long since the mercenary group entered, yet their guttural screams echoed outside. The screams were followed by the sounds of weapons clashing and a fiery explosion that burst through the entrance. Chances are it was the mage's doing. After a few moments of hectic clashes, the sound suddenly stopped. 30 minutes have passed since those clueless scammers entered. A sliver-rank mercenary group wiped out in just half an hour suggests something terribly deadly is inside. Even with a decent caliber mage in their midst, they couldn't last 30 minutes. Despite the worrying implications, Leon was determined to enter the dungeon. If they go in now, the traps the mercs reached won't have time to re-trigger. In fact, they could examine and study the traps that have been set off. Doing so would allow them to prepare better countermeasures. Upon entry, Leon summoned a ball of light to illuminate their way. A few steps into their deep dive, he signaled Lavina to halt. While physical traps take time to re-trigger, other types are a bit more complicated. If Leon hadn't activated the alchemy of Azure Earth, he would have ended up like the amateurs before him. His mana revealed a pathway of hidden magic circles embedded in the inconspicuous floor. Judging from the structure, it should be an illusion circle. It seems like the test began even before they entered this bizarre dungeon. 20 minutes ago, the Steel Shield mercenary group blundered due to ignorance. Bayak was fighting for his life. His opponent was the leader himself, Dr. Strange. The boss fought like a maniac and took down the pesky mage first and foremost. Leon could have fallen prey to the same illusion trap that afflicted the mercenary boss, but he was too cautious for that. The spell only distorts one's vision without causing physical damage, making it even harder to notice. A skilled mage could have dispelled the effects upon activation, but those who stepped on the circle unknowingly likely went for the mage first. Parties usually prioritize dismantling physical traps, and often fail to account for the rarer magic traps. There is a skill called Detect Trap that scans for them in advance, but only higher-level parties could employ that strategy. Those noobs who entered before Leon and Lavina are probably doomed. When the Steel Shield mercenaries entered the dungeon and activated the magic trap, their mage yelled at everyone to stop. but she was too late. The illusion magic easily took over the weak minds of their frontliners. Bayak tried to calm his boss down, but Dr. Strange was utterly lost to the spell. The other melee fighter in the group was also afflicted. He saw the boss as a monster. They sliced each other up, ignoring defense, and focused on causing as much damage as possible. The mage could still salvage the situation, but she needed time to analyze the trap first. To buy herself that time, she used a small explosion in an attempt to snap her comrades out of the illusion. Unfortunately, Bayak could not protect her while she was chanting. A humanoid creature snuck up from behind and slashed her body open with its claws. As a result, her explosion magic grew out of control, burning everything in sight. Severely weakened by the trap, more humanoid creatures came out of hiding to feast on human flesh. Attacking one another and falling prey to an unknown enemy, these mercenaries were truly unlucky. The aftermath of their demise is still fresh. Based on the bloody drag marks on the ground, Leon was certain that the mercenaries weren't dead yet. Their souls haven't departed yet. Someone or something dragged them deeper into the dungeon. Whatever took them in was particularly drawn to the mage. Leaving a mage's corpse at the entrance might provide clues about the traps to any other raid team. Upon closer inspection, Leon found that the culprit's footprints were subtly different from a human's. According to the intel from Martin, when Goma first appeared in the village, he didn't hide in the dungeon right away. Originally, artificial dungeons created by mages were just spaces intended for research, training, and occasional unethical experiments. But Goma built his dungeon at the foot of Khaled's mountain. He lived among the villagers without issues for a while. Once the village men began disappearing, he was deemed the prime suspect and forced to hole up in the dungeon, never showing his face publicly again. A dungeon on the outskirts of a village, a mage in hiding, and missing local men. There must be a link in the middle of it all. It is possible that Goma trained monsters to kidnap targets, but to abduct grown men, the monster used would have to be at least orc level. If that were the case, tracks and traces of their existence would have been found long ago. The one responsible for the abductions is likely human. It's more natural to assume that Goma has an accomplice on the outside. He's in bed with someone who can come and go from the village freely, subdue adult men without a trace, and transport them alive while avoiding detection. Once the first few kidnappings went down, it was easy to pin all the blame on Goma as the culprit. In turn, more people were lured into the dungeon in search of their missing loved ones. The mercenaries and adventurers who came before likely met the same fate as the Steel Shields. All Leon has is a working hypothesis, but it was better than knowing nothing. It's still a mystery why only men are being targeted. To get a better view of the situation, he summoned an army of apparitions for a thorough soul search covering the entire dungeon. Soul search is a phantom skill that releases soul scouts for intel gathering. In Leon's head, a detailed map of the dungeon was slowly formed. It was quite deep and complex. He also found the most likely spot where the mastermind is carrying out his scheme. Much to his surprise, only standard traps were present ahead. Goma probably thought his illusion magic was enough to deter any unwelcome guests. It's finally time for Lavina to step up. The danger level of this mission has already surpassed a grade 4 evaluation. Leon warned her that there's a very real chance of death if they go any further. He would happily handle Goma alone if she wanted to head back to the village for safety. Regardless of the unfair difficulty, Leon refused to give up on his promotion exam. There is something much bigger at stake for his plans in this place. Despite his considerate warning, Lavina chose to stay by his side. Even though she's not an assassin, she's still a member of Martin. She won't do anything that would bring shame to the guild. She is an odd support staff member with way too much passion for her job and loyalty to assassins. Maybe she's hiding another motive. Leon can't really get a solid read on the young lady. He promised to protect her as much as he could, but she can only blame herself if he fails. The duo traversed the dungeon according to Leon's mental map, while Goma watched their every step through an HD crystal ball. Goma attributed the survival of these two Martin rats to luck. There is no way they bypassed his illusions effectively. His sources told him beforehand that a 5th-class assassin was coming for his throat. Maybe his intel was wrong. His traps have never allowed any intruder in until now. His life's work is now being dismantled by brats. Goma refuses to see the results of his painstaking cultivation in this god-forsaken hole come to nothing. Those Martin brats would be the perfect prey for his lovely rat men. While the villains schemed, Lavina showed Leon how useful she could really be. With the right tools, she deactivated every trap trigger in one zone. Admittedly, he was a little impressed by her handiwork. When asked if she only tinkered with physical traps and nothing else, Lavina showed him a mana stone. Compressed magic spells can be stored inside a special ore. Mana stones are expensive and hard to handle, yet Lavina proficiently used one to deactivate the rest of the magic traps along the way. This type of disarming technique usually requires a deep understanding of mana structures and a high level of skill. She works fast too. Lavina's remarkable talent is invaluable. After showing off her skill set, Leon gave her one last chance to turn back. She sighed and doubled down on her decision to accompany him. Besides, she would be scared for her life if she heads back alone now. Leon said it himself. Something strange dragged those poor noobs away. The strange creatures she is so fearful of had arrived, and they have gathered right behind her. The Ratmen collectively shrieked, and Lavina swiftly ran behind Leon to shield herself. As the name suggests, a Ratman is a half-man, half-rat monster. They are a repulsive bunch. Leon prepared for the inevitable by summoning his daggers. Now it makes sense why only men were missing. From his hidey hole, Goma was feeling very proud of himself and his rats. A fifth-class assassin could not possibly break through a proud pack of Ratmen, right? As far as Leon knows, Ratmen can be artificially created, but there shouldn't be any in Drea. When the Black Mages were wiped out in the last Black and White War, the method for making Ratmen was supposed to have been lost. Seeing beasts from the old war, Leon readied himself for a troublesome fight. Back in Aedeon, he hunted these bastards to extinction by himself. There is no one more experienced at culling an entire population of Ratmen than him. Lavina watched the slaughter that ensued from the sidelines in utter shock. Leon was out there moving like he was him. He systematically dismantled the savage Ratmen with ruthless efficiency, one by one. He spilled their tainted blood and cut through their flesh with a big smile on his face. Lavina was certain that this was Leon's first encounter with Ratmen, yet he was tearing through them easier than a goblin hunt. Goma also had front-row seats to Leon's demonstration, and the Mad Mage wasn't happy. Some random Martin brat just barged into his domain and massacred his precious Ratmen. I'd be pissed too. Now he was truly fearing for his life. If that kid makes his way all the way to his position, he'd be done for. Still, he can never flee and give up the very reason he came to this place. While Leon was mowing every Ratman that dared to enter his range, the deranged mage was admiring a grimoire sitting atop a menacing altar. His eyes were full of greed. In his eyes, this book is his everything. A man smoking a pipe, interrupting his creepy habit, reminded Goma of the conditions for lending the book. All he has to do is continue with the experiments like usual. There's no need to worry about the intruders at all. They'll be dealt with accordingly. After all, Goma is a very important man for this whole operation. Some might even say he's the treasure of this forsaken territory. However, the owner cannot allow anything beyond reading and researching the book. As long as Goma follows the rules, his status and safety will be guaranteed. After clearing dozens of Ratmen, painting the floor with their blood, Leon found something odd. No matter how he looked at it, those Ratmen could not have forged the weapons they were using. They do breed at an incredible rate. A month-old Ratman is roughly similar to a goblin in level. In just a year, orc-level Ratman warriors are born. The dungeon was made just a few months ago. The weapons the Ratmen wielded were far too well made for natural progression. These weapons are far too standardized to be the work of a mere village blacksmith as well. Someone is working in secret with Goma to build an army. To be serviceable as soldiers, Ratmen must reach the orc warrior level, and that should take a year to achieve naturally. Leon was aware of one method to create these disposable soldiers without relying on natural evolution. It is the most basic yet forbidden way to create Ratmen. Just capture a bunch of civilians and turn them into rats. If Leon's idea is correct, there are two people who jumped right on top of his suspect list. Aside from Goma, Lord Kazan Khaled himself might be involved. As for the man carrying out the dirty work, it must be the Lord's younger brother and commander of Khaled Knights, Lord Caden Khaled. It is unlikely that the villagers were aware that they were being picked off by their own lord. Goma by himself could not have armed an entire battalion of Ratmen. The only man with that kind of resource in this area is Lord Kazan. Regardless of who's involved, Leon and Lavina must push through. Before going, Lavina teased him about his suspiciously deep understanding of Ratman production. Luckily, a rat that wasn't properly killed bailed him out from having to explain himself. Leon was caught off guard from behind, but Lavina was able to save his ass. She pulled a crossbow out of nowhere and killed that resilient Ratman in one shot. While Lavina was bragging about her combat training, Leon was analyzing the damage she had done. The mark was hit dead center in the darkness of a dungeon. Leon was starting to feel sussy about her alleged combat training. The duo continued following Leon's map while dutifully removing every trap along the way. Out of nowhere, Lavina voiced her understanding of why the Lord collaborated with Goma, even though it's inhumane. Based on Leon's explanation, there is no better material for building an army than able-bodied men. He took note of her overly logical take, atypical of someone from Drea continent. Lavina could feel the heart of the dungeon getting closer due to the mana traps ahead. But just a few meters away from the fated confrontation with Goma, the whole dungeon rumbled. A Ratman ogre wielding a medieval flail came out to obstruct their advance once and for all. Leon teased Lavina for knowing what a Ratman ogre was, and she yelled at him for messing around when they were in real danger. Ratman ogre spun his spiked ball and chain around, intimidating and sinister. Against such a heavy weapon, Leon met the challenge with his daggers. No matter how skilled he is, it looked like a mismatch. Fortunately, he didn't have to deal with the ball when he could just cut off the chain. With the mana sword active, he could probably slice through any steel. Lavina had never seen a 5th-class assassin manifest a mana sword before. It's Leon's turn to go crazy with a counterattack. Surely he could count on her for backup. Lavina immediately tried to show that she could contribute by firing off a crossbow barrage. Every bolt bounced off the Ratman ogre, not leaving a single scratch. Leon had to pause and give her a scolding for attacking head-on like a dumbass when she was supposed to use the surrounding traps to her advantage. Taking over the fight, Leon used information search on the level 20 Ratman ogre up front. It should be at a similar level to the Human Slayer. The most troublesome part of the fight was the pure power of the flail. If Leon decides to use his necromancy, he could win very easily. But it's too early to reveal his cards when the enemy is watching. For now, he activated physical acceleration and physical control at the same time. Ratman Ogre tried to squish him like a bug with crude attacks, but he was too agile. Physical acceleration gave him enough agility stat increase to finally move comfortably. Aside from speed, his most effective attack comes with a bit of risk, but he might have no other choice. Continuously stacking buffs, Leon enhanced his mana sword, greatly increasing its sharpness and attack power. Watching from the sidelines, Lavina was loving every second of the show. The ogre roared, extended its claws, and pulverized the ground Leon was standing on. Gone like the wind, Leon reappeared above the monster's head with his twin daggers ready to cut shit up. He carved that rat's body on his way down. Although his landing afterward was a bit sketchy, one good stretch of quick slices was all he needed. The ogre's wound was immediately infested by Leon's curses. In one combo, he gave that rat a physical weakening curse, a slow curse, and a skin defense weakening curse. It was brutal. Now's the perfect time for Lavina to step up and trigger the traps. The cavern walls opened up, and the steel arrow traps all around the area were triggered. It was a perfectly timed barrage that left the rat looking like a hedgehog. Not the type to leave it up to chance, Leon cracked the rat man's skull open for a finishing blow. His second time fighting a monster at the field boss level was a massive W. Lavina could not believe that she just participated in that kill. While Leon was yelling at her to chill out, something zoomed into their position from out of nowhere. Leon felt the killing intent directed at him, and his instincts kicked in. The commander of Kaled Knights, Caden Kaled, finally came out to play. His sword met Leon's, and the disparity in their levels quickly became apparent. Lord Caden maintained a cocky smile on his face throughout the whole exchange. Leon held his twin daggers firmly, taking the threat seriously. Instead of playing it passively, he charged in for a melee. Admittedly, Caden was impressed that a kid so young could utilize a mana sword so well. Their intel listed a 5th-class assassin, but the boy is obviously above that. Leon knew he was fighting one of the masterminds behind this inhumane operation. Just when he was about to go all out, something sinister prevented him from doing so. The Curse of Arkan flared up at the worst time possible. Due to the recoil from using tons of mana in the fight against the Ratman Ogre, he's being subjected to some nasty drawbacks. His mana recovery and stamina recovery slowed down, but that can be offset by his Azure Earth refining method. Fortunately, his training paid off, and he wasn't hampered as much. Even so, a nerf is a nerf, and a nerf in the middle of a fight cannot be good. He's not even sure if he can handle Caden in his current state. That man is a real knight who can hold a sword properly. To buy some time, Leon taunted the commander for resorting to a shameful sneak attack. Caden claimed he was merely testing the kid. He swore he held back enough to keep Leon alive. The fact that his head is still intact after taking a hit from a sword expert should be proof of that. Goma let his guard down because he thought the intruder was a mere 5th class. Caden wasn't going to make the same mistake, especially after seeing the kid dismantle the Ratman Ogre. From now on, Caden will start using his full strength to finish off the nuisance for good. The commander of the Kaled Knights finally showed his own mana sword and gave a proper introduction. Leon's hypothesis was proven right. The lords of Kaled are pieces of shit. He did not introduce himself in return. What kind of assassin would he be if he did? While bantering with the enemy, he secretly signaled Lavina using hand signs. He told her to stay back so she wouldn't get caught in the crossfire. Using the same trap trick against a sword expert would never work, so it would be better for her to flee. Lavina hesitated for a moment before she ultimately listened to his shot call. Commander Caden praised Leon for sending the lady away first like a real gentleman. With Lavina out of the way, Leon can move a bit more freely now. He's the type to never turn down a challenge after all. Despite the Curse of Arkan actively weakening him, Leon fought like a maniac at close range. The sounds of their blades clanging together filled the cavern as Lavina ran for her life. On her way out to safety, she came across a little boy who passed out on the floor. Unaware of her predicament, Caden and Leon continued clashing swords. The commander was swinging that blade like he wanted none of the intruders to leave this place alive. Leon was actively matching his freak and holding out despite the struggle. He could have maintained this pace until an opportunity arises, but that might not be an option. Lavina has been captured. The unconscious kid she found on her way out was working for Goma all along. The kid might seem human at first glance, but it really was a rat man. Leon didn't miss the chance to tease Lavina for being caught so easily, despite being a part of the assassination guild. Thinking that they hold all the cards now, Goma finally showed his ugly face to brag about his special rat man. Lavina wasn't caught because her skills were lacking. She was caught because of the rat man's unique trait. Occasionally, among the many failed rat man experiments, rare specimens with special abilities are born. The one he used to deceive the girl was a rat man that lacked combat power, but possessed exceptional stealth and the ability to shift between human and rat man forms. He is a loyal soldier in rat form, but when he takes human shape, the kid regains bits of his past memories. It was quite troublesome for Goma that such a useful pawn kept trying to return to his mother in the village. Thanks to that trait, Goma found the perfect tool for kidnapping the village men. Just now, his rat man shifter saw a ring among the belongings of the mercenaries from earlier, and the shifter ran off screaming for his mother. Goma was quite proud of his evil genius. Despite being an assassin, the lady still fell for the classic human trap. Leon was just pissed off by all the incessant yapping. The target he was supposed to eliminate just showed himself out in the open. He was actually quite grateful that Goma saved him the trouble of turning the dungeon upside down. Hearing that erased the stupid grin on the mage's face. Commander Caden reminded Leon that he's not in an advantageous position right now. In fact, he wasn't even in a position to worry about the lady. By the time Caden is done here, he is fully convinced that the intruders will leave in bits and pieces. Wrestling the momentum for himself, Caden pressed Leon harder than ever while talking trash on the kid's rather lacking defense. He called Leon's mana sword useless, just like the entirety of Martin. Goma added that they already knew about Martin's involvement since Lord Caden himself added his own gold to the down payment for the request. He was basically using his riches to lure in high-priced targets, the perfect specimen for high-level ratmen. Not only did they kidnap the locals, but they also exploited their desperation by goading them into hiring mercenaries to be used as lab rats. Village men are turned into rats, while the women who've lost their husbands and sons are continuously exploited without their knowledge. Leon was riled up. He cannot stand people in power who treat their subjects like resources to be drained, used, and abused. Now that he can see the bigger picture, Leon took back what he said about this fight being a challenge. Thanks to all their villainous raving about every little thing, enough time had passed for his penalty to wear off. Caden didn't take him seriously, calling it a bluff. Goma was on the same boat. He's a third circle mage, and the commander is a sword expert. They are practically Shaq and Kobe. Furthermore, there are plenty of Ratman soldiers left in his lab, waiting to be activated. Leon advised them to show off everything they want to show off while they still have the chance. Without the curse of Arcan slowing him down, he can now fight at full capacity. Goma saw the undead apparition behind Leon and nearly peed his pants. Caden and Lavina recognized that the apparition was the Ratman ogre Leon had killed earlier. It's time for these scumbags to experience the pain of those whom they trampled over. The undead Ratman ogre retained both its dilapidated appearance and savagery after death. Commander Caden was quite intrigued by the reveal that the Martin kid was a necromancer the whole time. If he were so interested, Leon would gladly give him a taste of deadly force. The Ratman ogre locked in on the sword expert, aggressively attacking without thinking of defense for even a second. Surprisingly, those brutally crude attacks were able to push Caden back. He must have been ashamed by it, so he compensated by going all out on offense himself. And it worked. The sword expert showed why he holds such a prestigious title. He ripped the undead Ratman ogre apart without an issue, bathing in its blood, and reminding his opponent that a single dead rat wouldn't cut it. Goma was so elated that he requested the boy's capture instead of killing him outright. Since Veda disappeared, necromancers have become an extremely rare dying breed. If they can squeeze the knowledge out of that assassin boy's head, it would surely lead to a massive breakthrough in their Ratman studies. Caden liked that idea a lot. He's all for reeling in a big catch. In his head, Leon must have used his undead trump card. It's a shame it was killed too easily. Leon scoffed at the commander for acting so leisurely when the thing he struck down wasn't a normal undead. Before it became a zombie, its blood had been severely contaminated by multiple stacks of curses. Naturally, the curses actively coursing through Ratman's system can be passed through contact. Caden foolishly hacked away at a tainted target, letting the curses take hold of his body. It was an agonizing process. His pathetic screams filled the cavern. Goma saw his protector keel over and felt his impending doom. By now, Caden's vision is getting blurry, as if he is sinking into the darkness. While the sword expert tried to keep himself alive and conscious, Leon addressed Goma. The mage mentioned his battalion of soldiers stashed away in the heart of the dungeon. In response to Goma's arrogance, Leon raised the Ratman army he had wiped out from the dead. He challenged the mage to an army versus army battle, knowing full well that it would be a damn slaughter. Leon has his bloody rats ready to throw themselves at the opposition. Will the test tube rats stand a chance? Lord Caden knew that he was doomed, so he picked up his sword and started swinging it wildly all over the place. He took out a few zombie ratmen using this mindless method. Despite the curse afflictions beating his ass, he's still a sword expert. Leon admitted that he was a strong fighter, but he's not stronger than a stack of potent curses. Furthermore, this guy had never faced a real necromancer like him before. Using the overwhelming number of undead ratmen, Leon whittled down Caden's stamina until he had nothing left. When the prey reached his limits, the army of rats pounced and sank their teeth into his flesh. It was a gruesome death fitting for a corrupt lord. Goma's knees went soft, falling ass first to the blood-soaked floor. The shifter Ratman, who was just chilling and holding Lavina, coincidentally spotted the treasured ring loose on the ground. As the mage mentioned, something about that ring reminded him of his days as a human. The shifter held his aching head, confused by the memories flashing in his mind. Lavina did not miss that reaction. She connected the dots that the shifter was Old Lady Sarman's son, and the ring was their family heirloom. She stirred up the pot by explaining to the shifter that his mother used the ring as payment for mercenaries. Old Lady Sarman begged those frauds to bring back her boys, even if they're just corpses. Hearing that from Lavina was enough to strongly remind the Ratman shifter of his mother. Goma was still trying to play it cool, threatening to do something to the hostage if he was harmed. Leon did not even listen to his weak threats. He continued marching alongside his blood-stained rat army. Goma kept talking as if he had the upper hand and didn't notice his own creation stabbing his chest from behind, crushing his black heart in the process. This wasn't supposed to be possible. He made sure to plant self-destruction spells that would go off if his subjects ever rejected their master's orders. He would be glad to know that the spell works. In his final moment of clarity, the shifter Ratman, Sarman's son, thanked Lavina and Leon for giving him a chance to save himself before sticking close to Goma and detonating, engulfing the deranged mage in an explosion of his own creation. The area was lit up by the blast. Goma's lifeless ass burned. Leon picked up the ring, prompting the system to update the legacy of Veda Quest. He is now in possession of a map containing the hero's soul location, a massive find. While Leon was inspecting the ring, a familiar crossbow bolt accurately knocked the artifact out of his hand. He wasn't able to react in time, so Lavina was able to snatch the ring out of his grasp. She had the gall to mess around when his army of rats was still around and ready to fight. Lavina excitedly put the ring on her finger and admired its shine. Now that the immediate threats have been neutralized, Lavina finally dropped the good girl act and shot Leon with multiple bolts. He just stood still and let the bolts graze past him. Much to his surprise, Lavina was actually targeting the zombie ratmen behind him. Every bolt claimed the life of a single summon. It was a very efficient kill streak, all things considered. She was able to do so much damage because her weapon was secretly imbued with divine power. Undead monsters struck by her bolts are simply destroyed, and the damage transfers directly to their summoner. You see, Lavina did her research. She knew Leon was a necromancer, though she was genuinely surprised by his proficiency. Leon was surprised too. This ditzy lady must have some kind of switch in her head to change her entire personality at will. Now it makes sense why she was so proficient in a wide array of magic. Cloaked in divine power, Lavina stared him down like he was prey. Putting everything aside, she wanted to know if he was really Veda's disciple. Lavina closed the distance by using a bizarre movement technique. Even Leon was caught off guard by her explosive speed. In a flash, she colonized his effective zone, appearing right in front of his nose. His brain tried its best to connect the dots and figure out how Lavina knew about his necromancy and his connection to Veda. Somehow, somewhere, someone must have leaked his secret. His mom and his loyal sermon subordinates wouldn't do something like that. It can't be the Rose family since Sainton Rose is still trying to build a connection with Leon, as evidenced by the massive fee they paid Martin. More importantly, she is not the kind of woman who would let her efforts go to waste. Lavina paused her flexing and pointed out how unnaturally relaxed Leon was in front of someone who could be a friend or a foe. Once again, she switched her personality so freely and quickly. She might seem intense, but she doesn't seem to have any intention of truly harming him. For now, he asked her the obvious question. Who exactly is Lavina? With a playful smile, she dared him to take a guess. From the very beginning, when they met at the inn, he already found her a bit suspicious. She acted clumsily throughout the whole dungeon raid. Still, her skills were too outstanding for an auxiliary guild member at the same time. Even in seemingly dangerous situations, she remained calm as though nothing ever actually posed a real threat to her safety. The way she acted as the shifter's hostage gradually turned Leon's doubts into certainty. For now, he played along with her guessing game and asked what he would get for a correct answer. The clues to her identity are as follows: top-tier dismantling skills, a blessed weapon, and above all, access to private information about Leon's necromancy. Whoever she is, she certainly doesn't hold an ordinary status. Even now, it feels like she is testing him. He doesn't really mind that. He just wanted to be rewarded for passing whatever test she had in mind. Lavina conceded that Leon is smarter than the reports she read. Since she loves gambling, Lavina agreed to grant him one wish if he guessed who she really is. But she'll only agree to proceed if there's a consequence for an incorrect guess. Leon could barely hold his laughter. This lady surprisingly took the bait. It's time to reel her in. He tried to talk his way out of consequences, but she firmly believes that there should be rewards and punishments based on the bet's outcome for maximum fun. For example, she would like to claim Leon as her servant for the rest of his life if he fails to guess correctly. She was trying to be out of pocket, but her words are hints of their own. Saying that she wants to command a fifth-class assassin must mean she has the status to back up her words. At the count of 5, he must guess her real identity. She playfully counted down while Leon prepared to utter his answer. Ever since he decided to hide his real identity and live like Leon the assassin, this woman's existence has always been included in his plans. When the countdown reached its final number, she thought she was about to gain a new slave. Leon snapped her out of her dreamy world by uttering her real name, Lavin-san. Instantly, Lavin erupted with aggression. She was not pleased to learn that her cover had been blown somehow. Her switch was flipped, turning her into a psychotic lady. Leon had always been aware of House Hassan, the renowned assassin family. No matter how incredible her status is, Lavin is still just a kid. She's prone to outbursts when denied. Nevertheless, Leon won the bet. In the past, House Hassan kept the young lady's identity strictly hidden. The Sermon family mobilized their intelligence unit to dig up information on her to shake House Hassan after it sided with Phaeton during the war. One day, the retired head of the house, Ari Hassan, abandoned the front lines in the middle of battle. Rumors say his absence was linked to the disappearance of his youngest daughter, who was hidden. Not long after, Ari Hassan met up with Celine Sermin for an unconventional proposal between families. Ari agreed to change sides if the Sermon family found his little Lavin before the Phaeton family does. Soon, detailed information about the missing daughter of Hassan reached Sermon. Ryun was able to read and memorize those old reports as he diligently researched to stop House Phaeton. Those reports chronicled Lavin's childhood, her physical description, and even her trivial habits. Knowing that Lavin was way too riled up to be effective, her guardian finally showed herself to interrogate Leon. Whoever this escort is, she is an expert skilled enough to deceive Leon's sharp senses. Being able to hide all that is a real skill. Displeased by her escort's intervention, Lavin ordered her to stay still. She was having an emotional outburst, and Leon was in the middle of the brewing storm named Lavin. He had better choose his next words carefully. Among the retainers of House Hassan, very few people know about the youngest daughter, making it more bizarre that some young assassin guessed so accurately. Instead of entertaining her follow-up questions, Leon put the whole premise of their bet in question from the beginning. She said it herself, even trusted retainers cannot be trusted with her real identity. Isn't it unfair to allow an unbeatable bet? It was practically a scam. Infuriated by his accusations, Lavin motioned to blow Leon up with magic. Her escort silently watched with a wry smile on her face. Ultimately, she was able to hold back and yapped about how Leon was the one who proposed the bet in the first place, so he's partly at fault. If it were up to Leon, he would like to scam one more wager, but that might really push Lavin to do something crazy. She relented and accepted her loss. However, Leon would have to give her a proper explanation about how he figured her out in exchange for one more wish. If she senses him spouting nonsense and bullshit, she will really try to kill him. Leon is already in too deep anyway. He might as well play with the tiger in front of him. When he first planned to make contact with Hassan's daughter, he never intended to maintain a mere business relationship. He explained that everything he knows is connected to his status as Veda's disciple. Lavin insisted that she and that ancient necromancer have absolutely no connection whatsoever. While that is true and easy to prove, Leon has some lies locked, loaded, and ready to go. He started by saying that he didn't exactly receive teaching from Grandmaster Veda. Right from the jump, Lavin was hooked by his intriguing story. Leon added that his master was from the Empire. When he mentioned the Empire, Lavin's escort suddenly pressured him to stop talking. The interruption was followed by a skull-breaking headache, making it impossible to talk. Whatever skill she used, Miss Escort here was trying to silence Leon. This only increased Lavin's interest. She wanted to know how she was connected to the Empire. Leon would be happy to oblige her curiosity, but Miss Escort was making it impossible to open his mouth. Since she took away his ability to speak up, all he could do was give the escort a hand signal not to worry. It took a while, but she reluctantly agreed to free him from that silent prison. Leon claimed that his master had a connection with Lavin's mother. He knew just what to say to capture Lady Lavin's undivided attention. The whole interaction worried her escort, while Leon was hoping that his bullshit story would stick. He's talking about some master who doesn't even exist after all. On the other hand, the Hassan matriarch is already dead, and her house didn't investigate her death thoroughly for some reason. Once he captured her imagination and heartstrings, Leon asked Lavin what she heard about the reasoning behind his becoming an assassin. He claimed he enlisted at Martin because of the words his master left behind about his old ties to House Hassan. Leon professed that his master had pushed him to contact the daughter of a dear friend and ask for her help. The escort was the first one to call bullshit on his fake story. As far as she knows, the matriarch passed away giving birth to Lady Lavin less than a year after entering House Hassan. Lavin was obviously desperate to believe his story, but Miss Escort wasn't buying his lies. In fact, she found it insulting that a mere boy was trying to make a fool of her. Lady Lavin. Miss Escort finally snapped, and her rage took over. Leon wasn't just going to take her threats lying down. Sometimes it is better to remind people that he is Veda's successor. As soon as he mentioned his master, the ladies braced themselves. He is a proud necromancer, a disciple who inherited Veda's knowledge. Leon cooked up a story about how the spirit of Lavan's late mother had come to visit his master before, and that he was there when they spoke, before her soul finally passed on. Although it sounds like a made-up story, because it is, there is no one alive to refute his claims. All he really needed to do was convince one person that this fantasy is real. He succeeded in doing that handily. He made Lady Lavan cry like a little girl, asking if her mom had left any words for her before passing on. Dead mom trick is diabolical. In truth, Lavan and Veda have no connection at all. There might have been a link to House Asan when Veda was still building his legend, but that's ancient history now. Lavan was born just over a decade ago. She's the daughter of Ari Asan and a woman who was briefly his concubine. Exploiting the young lady's longing for a mother, Leon made up the convenient lie. As a necromancer well-versed in soul arts, this is his trump card. Through necromancy, the dead can return to deliver the truth, and no one would be able to refute it. Once Lavan chose to believe in his lies, he answered that her mother's final words were an apology for her little girl. Hearing that opened the floodgates of tears. For someone longing for a mother's love, Lavan Asan would believe anything. While the young lady was having her moment, Miss Escort silently threatened to make Leon regret living if he proved to be a liar. She is going to need proof of his claims soon. Afterward, she comforted the sobbing Lady Lavan with warmth. With that drama out of the way, Leon's eyes wandered as he investigated. The death of Commander Caden and Goma left the Ratman manual ownerless. Rewards are waiting to be opened, and he has a free wish he can cash in whenever he wants. Lavan took Veda's dying wish seriously, and agreed to help Leon out in honor of his master and mother being close friends and all. From now on, they can be friends regardless of status. If he really is Veda's disciple, status won't be an issue anyway. Veda was once the head of a great family after all. She also established that she's 15, much older than the 13-year-old assassin. Lavan Asan will not tolerate disrespect from her junior. With that issue settled, the first thing Leon did was take control of Goma's corpse. He used that bum's soul to open the gate to the heart of the dungeon. It's crazy that reanimated corpses can be useful in such a way. One of the perks of being a necromancer is never being barred by facial recognition. Finally, they found the Ratman manual on Goma's altar. Lavan carelessly stepped forward to get a closer look, but her escort stopped her from doing so. Miss Escort would rather handle this one. The book is a black mage's relic after all. Who knows what kind of danger it poses? She held onto the book and riffled through its many pages. After a preliminary analysis, she determined that the manual itself was powerless. It was just a copy. The safest way to approach this would be to surrender the manual to Lavan's family as irrefutable proof of Ratman incursion. It would be better to keep this detail a secret from the guild. In exchange for ownership of the manual, Lavan promised to properly compensate Leon. Except for the book, every other loot in this dungeon is now Leon's property. She even promised to influence Martin to pay him extra since he had to fight Commander Caden during the mission. Surely the head of an evil sword expert could get him some decent rewards. Leon was just glad that everything was working perfectly for him. He no longer has to wonder how to get paid for the extra work he did. Even so, this certainly won't be the end. Goma and Caden were not the only villains involved in this scheme. They committed atrocities and built an army for a reason. The Lord of Khalid is still out there. Lavan assured him that traitors who try to overthrow the state always meet the same end. That corrupt lord and his cronies won't survive the night. Leon suspected that Miss Escort here might be busy tonight carrying out the hits. Speaking of corpses, Miss Escort was curious what Leon was going to do with Caden and Goma's remains. All things considered, both of them should be pretty tempting materials for a necromancer. If that was the case, maybe the corpses should count as his extra reward. He protested such an unfair exchange. Finally, Leon made his exit, leaving the survivor search to Lavan. There is somewhere he needs to go for a bit. He needs to make a stop regarding his master's dying message first. Anytime he uses that as an excuse, Lavan just lets him be out of respect. Miss Escort was still a bit hostile towards Leon, threatening to hunt him down if he ran away. By the time he was out of the dungeon, the sun had already risen. Away from prying eyes, he could finally mess around with the ring containing the location of a hero's soul. It automatically synced up with his system, activating the map before his eyes. He reckoned the site it's pointing to must be near the village, and he was right. The map was pinging an inconspicuously large pile of rocks in the middle of nowhere. He immediately knew that he had just hit the jackpot. For a more precise rendition of the map, he added the effect of the heirloom ring. Through this process, he was able to locate the hero's soul required for Veda's quest. He touched down near the pile of rocks and gave it a thorough analysis. It looked like an ordinary stone mound at first glance, but something was hiding underneath. With a blast of mana, he blasted the rocks away to reveal what was once concealed. Much to his surprise, a metallic hatch had remained undiscovered under that formation for ages. Due to its physical nature, Leon ruled out the possibility of another dungeon. He doesn't sense any monsters beneath. It might just be a secret hideout. This discovery made him ponder the connection between the Ratman manual, the hero's soul, and everything else bubbling beneath the peaceful surface. Perhaps he'll know more once he goes inside the hatch. Without hesitation, he opened the metal hatch and dropped down to God knows where. The first thing he encountered was a set of winding stairs leading him deeper underground. Just to be safe, he summoned his soul scouts via soul detection. They went ahead to ensure that the path below was safe. After a thorough scan, he didn't detect any kind of trap. Instead of feeling relieved, the lack of protective measures had him spooked. Eventually, he reached the bottom floor of the hideout. Before him was a room sealed by a stone slab gate covered in ancient carvings. The carvings weren't transcribed in Drea Continent's language. The contents were written in soul language instead. This alone confirms that the one who built this place must be Veda himself. Interpreting the language of souls and unlocking their secrets is the domain of a necromancy master. As far as he knows, there's only one necromancy master on the continent. Naturally, Ryun was fluent in this old-ass system of writing. He was able to decipher the carving, designating the place as a tomb for a dear friend. One must pay the proper entrance fee to enter. Since the tomb supposedly holds a hero's soul, the entrance probably requires another soul in return. The first one Leon tried was Goma's goofy soul, thinking the essence of a third circle mage should be enough to sacrifice. Unfortunately, Goma's soul was swiftly smitten to nothing. It was a waste of perfectly good material. Now he learned that Goma's soul might not have been enough. Caden's soul has more juice, but it would be another terrible waste if he were deleted. After thinking about his situation for a minute, Leon realized that the entrance was with him all along. He didn't just stumble upon this tomb randomly. He found this place through Veda's legacy. The fee must be connected to the quest. If that's the case, then the Human Slayer's anomalous soul must be the answer. As soon as the Human Slayer's essence materialized, the slab reacted brightly. It opened up, and the booming voice of Veda welcomed Leon to his gallery. Standing from the entrance, Leon could see a long stretch of hallway decorated with luxurious portraits. The paintings depicted warriors in armor predating the Age of Knights. For some unknown reason, he intrinsically felt that every subject in the painting was captured free of suffering, as if they're all here by choice. These portraits weren't really painted by anyone. They are the remnants of souls bound to Veda himself. Ryun has a skill similar to this soul gallery in his arsenal, one that he can use with access to the power of spirits. It's not an exaggeration to say that Veda had stepped into a realm far beyond that of a normal necromancer. It was surprising to see that those in his soul gallery clearly consented to being Veda's weapon while they were still alive. At the end of the hall, the biggest painting rests. The portrait of an orc dual-wielding a war axe and a great sword. Absolute gigachad. Leon felt naturally drawn to the image of the hero's soul embodied by the king of orcs himself. The great orc chieftain Harmon was one of Veda's legendary companions, a real hero through and through. When Leon got a little too close to the portrait, it suddenly gave off a resplendent light covering the entire hall. As if following Harmon's lead, the other portraits added their own luster to the light show. Veda's soul gallery danced together, leaving Leon in awe. Once the dance concluded, Leon wasn't the only living presence in the room anymore. Harmon's soul, resting in the portrait, has been awakened by Veda's successor. The time has finally come for the great orc chieftain to fulfill his promise with an old friend. Leon was enveloped by light, completely oblivious to what was about to happen. The souls from every portrait left their vessel to congregate around their new host. The forgotten heroes and legends of a bygone era have found Veda's successor. It's time for Ryun to experience his master's legacy firsthand. When the first soul approached him, he realized his mistake immediately. He did this whole quest line out of order. Ryun wasn't supposed to get this reward until the very end. Now he must endure the cumulative power of restless souls, forcing themselves into his body. The pain was intense and instantaneous. His screams filled the empty halls as he cursed himself for being so stupid and rushing. The stone gate, covered in soul language, was supposed to be a trial to be conquered later down the line. He was only able to cheat his way in because of his pre-existing knowledge of soul language. Harmon's tomb wasn't supposed to open yet, but Ryun will have to make do. Thankfully, his vast knowledge of Adeon could get him out of this bind. The souls of forgotten heroes continue to enter his body, voluntarily submitting themselves to Veda's disciple. At this point, the pain was starting to become unbearable. He's been focusing on leveling up Hand of Death, so the capacity of his soul gallery hasn't caught up yet. He has already reached the max cap. The overflow of souls made him feel like he was about to burst. Kendalak, Alfonso, Defnica, the forgotten names of every soul flashed before his eyes. The systems and quests in Adeon had perfect continuity. Now he's paying the price for assuming that his new system would be the same. With his body on the brink of falling apart, Ryun gritted his teeth. He leveraged the levels he gained in Goma's dungeon to dump all his stat points into magic. Simultaneously, he activated Blue Earth's refining method. With full control of his body, he twisted his circuits to accommodate the soul overflow. Using them as a catalyst, he was able to force his phantom to level up repeatedly, expanding his soul gallery point by point. It was a delicate balancing act, nearly impossible to pull off, but this is his only way to survive. The blunder he committed quickly turned into a blessing as Ryun's level continued to climb. By forcibly shifting levels between classes, he was able to more evenly improve his kit. Once he reached some semblance of stability, he tinkered with his body's circuits. In doing so, he will be able to draw more spiritual power from the souls within Veda's gallery. He was basically expanding his capacity by force. Ryun had never locked in harder than this. When the congregation of souls finally died down, he dropped back into the ground. Looking around, the pristine hall of portraits had been thrashed. He sat his ass down and caught his breath for a minute. He was bleeding from every orifice, but the risk justified the reward. For starters, his soul gallery grade increased significantly. Normally, Veda's successor was supposed to use pure magic to receive this power, but he managed to pull it off through manipulation. The souls trapped in his body filled out about half of his new gallery. All that's left is the big dog at the end of the room. One way or another, Harmon's promise to an old friend must be fulfilled. Considering that his soul gallery is only half full after that grueling process, perhaps taking on the Great Orc was feasible. He recognized that Harmon's soul is on a completely different scale from the ones he had absorbed earlier. Even though he did things out of order, everything worked out in his favor. With rock-solid resolve in his eyes, Ryun invited Harmon's soul to enter him. Right away, he was almost knocked down by the intensity of Harmon's entry. It took a long time to fully suck every bit of soul power out of that old portrait. The painful process ended with Ryun unconscious on the floor. When he woke up, notifications filled his vision. Harmon's soul is secure. Veda's disciple has obtained a hero's soul. He sat up and scanned his whole body for anything odd. Thankfully, the only odd thing was the deactivation of the Leon disguise he maintained through body control. Inside his soul gallery, he could sense an imposing figure slumbering within. It was Harmon's soul. He was granted plenty of EXP, and all his stats have increased drastically. In addition, he acquired Harmon's gauntlet. Surprisingly, putting on his new legendary weapon came to him intuitively. Aside from the material rewards, the legacy of Veda quest has been updated. His next task is to find the remaining legacies of Veda scattered across the continent. Furthermore, a new quest was added to the list. It was an ominous warning to prepare for Arkan. He just narrowly escaped an untimely death, yet the threat of Arkan is just around the corner. Ryun wasn't ready to say goodbye to his Leon persona just yet. He put his disguise back on and left Veda's hideout. Leon met up with Lavin and returned to the village together. At the inn, the villagers, including Old Lady Sarman, welcomed them as heroes. Sarman was so grateful that her tears wouldn't stop flowing. Like usual, Leon insisted that he was just doing the job he was paid to do. The innkeeper, who never suspected him of being the assassin sent by Martin, was a bit embarrassed for being so clueless. Now Leon was celebrated by the locals as a true hero of Khaled. Thanks to the rescue efforts, one of Sarman's sons survived. He's now recovering at the safety of their home. Leon made sure to credit Sarman's other son, the shifter Ratman, for his sacrifice that led to the survivor's rescue. Technically, he was the one who killed the detestable Goma. Now that he's done with his quest, Leon surrendered the heirloom ring back to its original owner. The gem's color changed for a reason, but it's still the same ring. Old Lady Sarman didn't take the ring back. Instead, she shared a story that goes back hundreds of years to the time of the Black and White War. Back then, a black mage once appeared in this area. It slaughtered the people and easily took over the Lord's castle. The Black Mage's terrible reign was ended by a brave hero who burned the Black Mage to ash. That fearless man gave the heirloom ring to an ordinary farmer who risked his life guiding him to the castle. The ring in Leon's hand was the same ring handed down by a hero to a humble farmer. Based on that story, Leon could see a clearer picture of what really happened back then, and why the map to the hero's soul was hiding in such a remote village. Legend says the ring would change color once it found its true master, and that's precisely what happened. Old Lady Sarman felt bad for the mercenaries she hired, but it all worked out in the end. Her family's heirloom ring found its rightful owner, and the mage's reign of terror has ended. To show their gratitude, the villagers pooled their resources to give Leon a little extra. If he's ever in the area again, his food and accommodation will be free of charge in this town. Without a hint of shame, Leon took the bag of money for himself. The quest was completed, EXP was gained, and additional rewards were granted. Now they must hurry along since the Lord of Khaled collapsed suddenly the same night they cleared the dungeon, and Knight Commander Caden was stamped as missing in action. If Leon and Lavin stay in town for too long during a politically turbulent time like this, it'll only be a matter of time before they fall under heavy suspicion. They left Khaled under the cover of the night. Finally, Lavin could interrogate her secretive friend about what he's been up to over the last few days after the dungeon raid. He used his master's dying wish as an excuse and took 3 whole days to resurface. Naturally, the young lady was curious about whatever he'd been up to. Lavin being curious is a good thing. That means she didn't have him followed for the past 3 days. While pestering him for information, she noticed that he had grown a few inches taller and that his skin had grown even paler in the short time they had been apart. Hell, she would probably believe him if he said he's a vampire now. More than that, the thing that interested Lavin the most was the massive and sudden increase in his mana reserves. Furthermore, she could see that he was obviously hiding one hand under a cloth bandage. She forcefully tore that cover open, and his new gauntlet was exposed. From its appearance alone, it was apparent that it was a treasure. If she could see the specifications of Harmon's gauntlet, she might just faint. This was by far the best reward he gained from the long quest line. It's a weapon that can never be destroyed and gradually regains its durability. More than the increase in offensive ability, this gauntlet will allow him to block any attack without worry. As expected, Lavin wanted to know more about the gauntlet and his solo adventure. In hopes of shutting her questions up, he confessed to finding Veda's legacy. This only made her more animated. Anything Veda touched is considered a treasure many have sought for ages but could never find. Whatever Leon found seemingly put him through some sort of awakening. Considering what she knows about Leon, Lavin swallowed the truth quite readily. Out of concern for her new friend, she also warned him to keep everything about Veda a secret. He cannot go around telling people that he's Veda's disciple anymore. Leon wasn't planning to do that in the first place. He already has something in mind to deal with that risk. Together, Leon and Lavin returned to the bustling city of Fainton, where Martin resides. The branch manager received his written report, and her hand shook as she read through every line. You cannot blame her for that reaction. Everything that happened in Caelid was insane on paper. If Leon didn't have Lavin to back up his report, it would be hard to believe what he went through. It's only been a few months since a young man named Leon joined Martin, beating every record. He seems to have matured by several years, shedding his boyish looks and adopting a more manly aura. The branch manager caught herself thirsting after a boy at a growing age and shook her head to stay focused on the issue at hand. She thought giving Leon an absurd mission would lead to some kind of failure. The world of assassins is not easy. This test was originally meant to teach him that. Even then, she did not account for the involvement of a sword expert of all things. Leon already surpassed expectations by returning in one piece. The fact that he got rid of Goma and the crooked lords involved was just a gigantic cherry on top. Eager to help her friend, Lavin co-signed every word in the written report as Leon's auxiliary support. No one else in the room knows her true identity, aside from the branch manager. She could see his success making sense if the daughter of Asan stepped in to help. Lady Lavina orchestrated Leon's assignment to Caelid after all. Unexpectedly, Lavin claimed that she was nothing but a burden, and Leon did all the work. The only noteworthy assist on her part was disarming some random traps. As for clearing the dungeon, assassinating Goma, and fighting the sword expert, Commander Caden, head-on, that was all Leon through and through. The other assassins listening in on the meeting found her account of what happened utterly unbelievable. Caden is a well-known commander of the Caelid Knights. He wasn't some chump with a sword. The branch manager's job just got even more complicated, factoring that in. With a firm tone, she asked if Leon had eliminated someone who wasn't on the target list. Lavin doubled down on her first-hand accounts about how Leon killed both the mage and the sword expert, completing the mission successfully. Doubts were growing about whether a 13-year-old kid could really achieve all that. Forget about 4th class. What he accomplished could pass a 3rd class or higher evaluation. The branch manager refused to believe that Lady Lavin didn't step in to help. Even though she's still hostile towards Leon, Miss Escort briefly passed a mental message to the branch manager, backing up the written report and Lavin's statement. Lady Lavin truly kept her hands to herself this time. If anything, all she did was delay the Caelid reports from reaching Martin. House Asan will handle the Ratman production manual fiasco as promised. So Miss Branch Manager was forced to accept the fact that Leon was just built different. With no more doubt clouding her mind, the branch manager slumped into her chair. In truth, she was very much impressed by the young man. Just a few months ago, a weird kid commissioned her branch for the weirdest request. Now that weird, arrogant kid is showing a level of talent never before seen. He's starting to look like a proper member of the Assassin's Guild. Even the members who only saw him as a cocky kid gained a newfound respect for their junior. Some even claimed they had high hopes for the boy from the start. With this change of perception, Leon brought up the incorrect classification of the commission rank. He insisted that facing and beating a sword expert entitles him to more than just a 4th-class promotion. He even implied that the branch manager must have given him an impossible mission on purpose. The members tried to scold him for disrespecting the boss, but the branch manager shut them up real quick. She argued that unexpected variables will always be a part of missions. She cannot be blamed for the lack of proper intel. Still, they are talking about a villainous knight commander here. This is not something Martin can just brush off as an insignificant and unexpected variable. If the branch manager didn't know about such a dangerous variable, that's arguably a worse look for her. If that were truly the case, this would be nothing short of incompetence on her part. Calling the boss incompetent was the final straw that made the Martin assassins hostile. One member, Soman, an assassin awaiting promotion to 3rd class, charged at Leon with the intent to harm. He welcomed the incoming fist readily, dodging out of the way with a quick step back. With enough space to work with, Leon swatted Soman's hand away. He followed the slap with a nasty armbar that threatened to break the hot-headed assassin's arm. Soman gritted his teeth. His pride prevented him from tapping out. Eventually, the pain became too much to endure, and he begged the kid to let go. Leon calmly whispered that further resistance would be met with a broken limb. The branch manager knew that she was in checkmate. She could confess to knowing everything all along. but that might expose Lady Lavin's involvement and lead to a lot more headaches. She couldn't prove it, but it felt as though she walked right into what Leon wanted. He started a scene on purpose to force her hand. The present members and the branch manager steered clear of his stunt for the moment. He could tell that she figured out what he was trying to do. Having a subordinate run wild in the branch manager's office shows a lack of leadership. Since his goal had been achieved, Leon kindly let go of Soman's almost broken arm. Instead of reprimanding Leon, the branch manager ordered Soman to get out. If he doesn't shut up and leave the room, she might just break his arm herself. She doesn't like yelling at her subordinates like that, but Leon left her no choice. Sitting back down, she apologized to the kid. By all accounts, the execution of the mission was absolutely flawless. For now, all she can grant him is the promised promotion to 4th class. With that out of the way, Leon opened the table for some negotiation. It's only fair that he gets something a little extra for his troubles. This time he wants something other than reward money, something more valuable. Hearing that automatically made the branch manager nervous. Leon's seniors also thought he was crossing the line. He's behaving as though he doesn't know how strict the Assassin Guild is when it comes to discipline. The thing is, Leon wasn't the first one to cross the line. Miss Manager did. The kid almost died because of the guild's incomplete and inaccurate intel. Pushing back any further would only make her look like a fool. Reluctantly, she allowed Leon to speak and promised to grant whatever he wanted, as long as it was within her power. Leon is a simple man. All he wanted in exchange for his efforts was information. Miss Manager thought she was going to get fleeced, but providing information is certainly within her wheelhouse. As a full-fledged 4th-class assassin of the guild, Leon should be allowed access to most information Martin has for free. But for him to specifically demand information as a reward for beating a sword expert, he must be digging for something incredibly valuable. After knowing Leon through the duration of the mission, Lady Lavin had an idea as to what he might ask for. The information he wanted to get his hands on concerns the legendary necromancer, Veda.